I would say patents are evidence of innovation. They may not automatically necessarily entail.
They're not, though.
You don't. I would say they are. I would say they are.
Out of my but the
patents
thing is, with
make it
my
more
example
likely
that
that innovation is happening.
But the example I just presented to you on patents, it doesn't correlate patents equals innovation.
Well,
Well, it's just analogous. If we're so afraid of like what's going to happen when the immigrants come and take over, why don't like workers unionize and stuff like that? Like that seems like a natural response to like we want to demand better wages, so then you unionize.
Well, you only get
my understanding is that most people are made better off by unions if they're in the union, and that they get a higher increase in wages than the dues that they pay. That does come at a cost of other jobs, though, because wages above equilibrium.
Great, you can unionize. More power to the union. But I'm shutting that station
I mean, if we had communism, though, then the workers could own the shop instead.
There's two different unemployment rates. There's like the fake one and then like the real one. Like there's like
the fake one. They've released the fake one and they released the real one on the side. What's the real one?
Yeah, no. Again, I'm not a Stalinist either. I'm a Marxist. If you should know what Marxism is before you try to forward.
Yeah, but no one.
Well, you don't know what you're talking about either. You told me that companies are going to like offshore their assets to avoid a destination-based cash flow tax. The key part of destination-based is that you tax it based on its destination, not its origin. It actually is pretty hard. It actually is relatively easy to avoid the origin tax right now because you can station your company in the Bahamas. But a destination-based tax
I was wrong about
advanced
economic. Wait, so because I was wrong about advanced economics, I don't know what Marxism is.
But also, if you want the real wages of workers to go up, you know what you should do? You should not tax savings. You should only tax consumption. You shouldn't tax all the rich people who are saving money, because saving that money increases productivity, which in turn increases
not the rich.
If you want to see more content like this, I would really appreciate you liking and subscribing. It really helps with the algorithm. And make sure to check out the Discord and other social links in the description.
All right. I actually expected more right-wing people to come up and argue you, Nonfon, but I guess you have your full support coming in to back you up. So, of course, Melanie the Furby, who will be debating on the 13th. I believe that's not this coming Monday, but the next Monday. That one is set up. That's going to be with Chris Lestrange. They're going to be arguing over the pew-pews. And then old Sarge Finkel, as we all know, we love you, old Sarge Finkel, always coming in with the jokes. And then now, of course, we have TickyTack coming in to have some fun. Hello, everybody, and welcome.
How's it going, y'all?
Hi, TickyTack.
I have one contention for you, Nonfon,
Sure.
and it's the conflation. It's the conflation between innovation equals, or the growth in patents equals innovation. So the issue is like I'll throw you the example. I invented a dish sponge by using gingerbread, and I patent it. The fact that I made the patent doesn't mean it's a good product, or that it has innovated something, or it has improved anything. So I would further to ask, it's like, how many of these patents are actually being used to innovate the technology?
I didn't look that deep into the study, so I know some studies do actually track like how much the patent is being used.
You said you haven't looked into it. So, what are your other studies? What are your other studies that may correlate to immigration equals innovation?
Equals innovation. I think that's the primary one for innovation. In the
but you just said you had multiple
products.
You said you had multiple studies. So, what are some of the other studies that you were looking at?
I have studies primarily on the effects of the native-born wages, and there's another study that shows that businesses are able to scale up more because of the immigration. That might not necessarily be innovation, but they are able to scale up.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, are you willing to backtrack on your claim that immigration equals innovation?
Well, I think, I mean, if you're defining, innovation, I would say patents are evidence of innovation. They may not automatically necessarily entail.
They're not, though.
You don't. I would say they are. I would say they are.
Out of my but the
patents
thing is, with
make it more likely that innovation is
to
happening.
But the example I just presented to you on patents, it doesn't correlate patents equals innovation.
Well,
it's just analogous. It's analogous.
What? I mean, I think it's evidence in the fact it increases the probability.
This is
You have to be able to say that it's usable. So
No,
you can't. Your
people
gingerbread
file
sponge analogy
patents
wouldn't work.
for
Fine.
perpetual motion machines and free energy machines. Okay, and would you say that those are actually like real devices that actually work?
Well, no.
I mean, in order
but
to actually
I do
test them.
think patents coming out of high-tech companies are evidence of innovation. Evidence in the sense that it increases the probability that
innovation
innovation is
and
happening.
say you don't know.
It's not wasting
I
out.
don't
It's
know
not-
it. Hold on, hold on, hold on,
You know that
hold on.
perpetual motion is physically impossible.
Hold on, because I don't hear what any of you are saying right now. So let's just make sure we're going one at a time.
Well, I definitely want. I'm just saying that it is physically impossible to produce a perpetual motion device. Yet there's plenty of patents out there for it. So would you say those patents are innovation of technology?
That's not saying that they can't make a useful product out of it.
Out of perpetual motion doesn't exist.
It's not usually the utility they propose, but at the end of the day, they
this
need
is
to...
such a non sequitur. No,
What's the point of a patent?
You're the
What's the
one.
point of a
You're the
patent?
one on the
What's the
stage
point?
right now.
What's the point
You're
of a patent?
Screw what this fox
What's
is
the point of a
saying.
patent,
She's just going
TickyTack?
down a
Show
different
me you know.
direction.
Show me what the point of a patent is.
so-
To show that the person owns the original IP, right?
But the point, but that's not what we're arguing right now. We're arguing about patents
So-
equals innovation.
So if at the end of the
So-
day they make a useful product out of it, they still need to be able to show they own the IP.
But I've already proved situations that is not a useful product when you file a patent.
Well, sometimes
You're literally just
these
arguing
patent
for the sake of
agents can see
arguing.
other
Just shut
things
up.
into the
Seriously.
product. Like, for
You
example,
always
this person
do
has
this. You always
innovated-
just go off into a tangent that is completely unrelated to the argument and the cause.
And you don't understand the nuance of these
we're
things.
trying-
For example, if a patent sees a useful...
Stop
TickyTack,
it. Yeah, you're just blabbing.
you just
no,
wanna
you're just
be
blabbing
wrong.
away on a tangent.
You just want to be wrong
you're the
about
one.
patents. If a patent agent sees something
This
useful
isn't
in it...
about being right or wrong about patents. This is about
who
trying to
approves
get
the
non-fun
patent?
to prove the correlation
TickyTack, who
between
approves the
patents
patent?
to innovation.
Who approves the patent? Who approves the patent?
The patent office.
And who works at the patent office that approves it?
Well, what's that
College
have to do with the
interns.
correlation, though?
Because if they see something useful in that patent, that useful innovation, even if it's not the intended purpose, they can still greenlight it.
So
there
there
have
are
been-
But it's not
there
a
are
measurement
tests
of
for patents to
innovation.
make
But
sure
that's
they
not
are
a measurement of
novel.
innovation. That's
Hold
not
on.
a measurement of innovation. The fact that it got a patent is not a measurement of innovation. You have
So
to
what's your
prove that
measurement?
the patent's
What's your
actually
measurement?
improvement of technology. It's like in the
improvement?
sense of
Efficiency? Moore's Law?
increasing efficiency, increasing productivity, and things like that. But that patent doesn't say that is going to happen with those products. It's like, again, that you're just
The
going
patent
off on
wouldn't
the
say that.
side.
These have to be novel technologies that are
on the
new to the
original
public.
point,
A patent wouldn't work for something that's more efficient.
You're on the
A
stage
patent
right
wouldn't-
now.
a
Can
patent
you
wouldn't
prove
apply to
that
something
a
that's more
patent means
efficient.
more innovation?
It would have to
I
be
would
an
say a
entirely new
patent-
technology.
Can you
that's
prove-
novel.
And wrongful rage coming
I
in
wanna-
with the big 10. Hold on. This will help you. Why are you never good faith? Melanie is out to make money for Sarah in the backyard. 10 minutes timeout to you, Melanie. I'm going to put you backstage for 10, okay? I didn't know I was going to have to start a timer this early on. Oh, wait. Now you have 15 minutes, Melanie. I apologize. Naomi coming in with the big 5. Mute for Mel for a few minutes. All right. So I'm going to put a timer for 15. We'll get TickyTack to kind of lay his grounding down and let Nonfon carry it out, because I believe the original question was for Nonfon. Okay.
Yes.
Putting you backstage
Yeah.
for just a little bit. And Spicoli, I'm bringing you on, but please let TickyTack get through his point, and please let Nonfon respond. Thank you.
Yeah. So, what exactly is the direct correlate between more patents filed equals more innovation?
Well, to be clear, I don't think patents necessarily entail innovation, but I think more patents being granted is evidence to the effect that innovation is occurring, since to get a patent, you have to, there are tests for it being new and novel.
You're talking out of two sides of your mouth. You're
I
both
don't
saying
think so.
that is evidence, but also saying that it doesn't necessarily entail.
It's
also,
something
you're
can be
talking
evidence
out
without
two
it
sides of your mouth,
necessarily
ignoring logic.
entailing it. Evidence could increase the probability of something being true, but it doesn't necessarily entail that that thing is true, which is, I think is the case here. It doesn't necessarily prove that there is more innovation, that there is more patents, but because there are more patents, that is evidence that innovation is increased.
Prove that the evidence increases the innovation of technology.
Well, patents are tested, right? In order to be brass house, in order to be approved, patents have to, survive a test for them being new and novel. I think that that test doesn't always work.
But that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. Like I presented on the example, like perpetual motion devices and free energy devices are patented, but they're physically impossible. So it's like the patent office doesn't go to verify whether there is actually some sort of improvement.
Yep. Did we lose you, TickyTack? I think we lost you, TickyTack. Check, 1, 2, TickyTack to you. All right. I do kind of... Is he coming in? Maybe hop back out and back in, TickyTack. Maybe that'll fix it. I do kind of question the idea if the patents, like he's saying that, kind of quality. Oh, you're back. You're back. I do ask the question because you're kind of making a quality versus quantity type of argument. Am I wrong? I think I'm understanding that correctly.
Yeah, that's okay. Right.
So do you have something that says that the patents that are being pushed through that Nonfon is referring to, are you like, do you have something that says they're not, not like proof that they're not?
I'm not the one making the claim that patents equal innovation.
Well,
it's Nonfon's claim, and he doesn't have any means.
Well, I'm asking you the question out of curiosity.
I think it's evidence to the effect that there is innovation. I don't think it necessarily entails innovation.
Well, it's a question for me. So, yeah, it's the example that I brought up that there are patents for perpetual motion devices and free energy devices, yet they are physically impossible. They don't even work. So it's like the qualifier of a patent. Yeah, sure.
It's an arbitrary measure. You can't say
you're going off kind of a false premise because there are perpetual motion machines that work that just don't have much use. Remember that the Bird and Spencers that would constantly do this.
So that one's based. That one's based off of
ideas out of your head, or you've actually done the research.
Here.
They do exist.
Here, that particular example is based off of thermal energy displacement. You actually have to have cold water underneath the bird in order for it to actually motion. But I'll play in with your example. I know of one example that is considered perpetual motion. Somewhat. It's a marble machine that has been infinitely turning for many years, but it still has some friction in it. So it may die in 1,000 years. But it just kind of gives the visual that it's perpetual motion in our time. I know he probably timed out, but the thing is that I'm not going to get into like the this kind of debate of the nuances, but I'll go back to my original example. I invented a dish sponge that is made out of gingerbread. And it's like, no, it's I'd imagine gingerbread would just. I'd imagine gingerbread would be something that fall apart.
They're arbitrary, right? Everybody agrees with that, right? That's an arbitrary measure.
How is it arbitrary? What do you mean it's arbitrary?
Because we wouldn't be able to say that the amount of patents is gonna describe the utility of immigration, right? Like, there's no way we could.
I think patents are evidence of the effect of innovation.
If an immigrant invented the polio vaccine, we could then argue, but like, we don't have any metrics. We're just saying patents themselves. That's what TickyTack is saying, right?
I don't know why we would use
a scenario. I'll throw you a scenario. An immigrant comes into the United States and he doesn't know much about patent laws, but he's been fed this dream of like, oh, you get a patent on a product, you license it, you make a lot of money, and then a patent office comes around and be like, hey, I'll file your patent for $100, and just sharks $100 out of the person with a bad idea, and there we go. He just got shammed out $100.
Gravity bong in 2005. I literally got a patent for a gravity bong in 2005. Like, never sold one. Hilarious. But it was very effective.
So can you go down to these stoners in the college apartments and be like, oh, you can't use that, I have a patent over it?
I think even arguing about patents being a measure of the impact of immigration on society it's arbitrary, right? Like there's no way that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's arbitrary if I'm trying to show that they increase innovation.
Oh, hang on. Is this a
non-phone
point? The patents?
Yeah. Which Nonfon. Let's go away from the patents. You said that you had other
Nonfon's better than that.
It's like
better than
you
what?
described that you have other.
You're better than the patent argument. I didn't think that was from you, dude. You're better than that.
What's wrong? Okay, Brass.
Okay, because you're not making it's an arbitrary claim. You have to like talk about
How's
the utility
that arbitrary?
of the patent if you're gonna make the claim that increased patents is better to the net society. You need to show us that. You're just saying that the numbers are better. Like what Sarah Tomato said is. Like you're making a quantity versus quality argument, but you're not proving the quality. So it's
I think patents are generally evidence of innovation occurring because patents have to pass a test of being new and novel.
Dude,
you would need to prove correlation. You would need to prove correlation in that case.
Yeah, like I didn't create no net society to fucking America, and I have a patent.
Okay, my claim is not that the patent system is perfect. My claim is that patents simply increase the probability of an invention. The patent application being granted, it increases the probability of there being a, new and novel invention.
I'm probably on your side on this. I'm just saying, like the patent argument, it's a weak argument.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want to hear your other arguments because you said you had other studies that correlate to immigration equals more innovation. So I'd like to. I think that's
the one for innovation. There's one for businesses scaling up, which I also don't think necessarily entails innovation, but I do think is weaker evidence of there being innovation. It could just be scaling up existing things. Yeah.
Okay, so if you can't prove innovation, then that means that the immigrants that are coming over are probably of like equally qualified experience as the rest of the people in the United States.
That doesn't follow. But also. Again, when you say prove innovation, I think there's a reason to believe that there is innovation if we're seeing that companies are able to scale up more easily, they are able to get more patents.
We're a country of immigrants. It's obviously immigration is
real. They're able to scale because they get cheaper labor and people who want that green card and citizenship, and now they essentially have slave labor for like 6 years because they could just kind of like be like, oh, if you dip out of this job, you have to go back to your country.
Well, I don't think it's weird to call it slave labor when they voluntarily accepted it because the opportunity for them is better than any opportunity they could get in their home country.
I could grant you that portion. But it's a little bit of predatory business practices. Would you agree with that?
No.
I'd like to ask you a question about that, Nonfon.
Sure.
I have an issue with the H1B visa, not because of immigration or the xenophobic bullshit, right? But I don't like that these people are not, their legal status in the country is tied to a corporation. You know what I mean? I think there's a better way to do that. I don't think that they should, like, if HP decides they're done with these people, they're back to India. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's cool. I think there should be a way separate from the corporations for people to immigrate, but like having their status in the country be tied to these corporations, I think is at minimum could be exploitative.
Well, there are ways to immigrate without being tied to the corporation, but I think that the point of the H1B visa is it's meant to be for, mostly high skill immigrants, and in order for that to, exist, you want them to have a job in a high paying sector. I think that's the point of the H1B visa. There are other visas we could do for
what if
not having it tied to the company.
An objective board, or some sort of way of verifying these people's skills outside of a corporation saying they're willing to sponsor them for employment, right? And say that we need programmers, and programmers from all around the world were able to apply. You know what I mean? And to this other organization rather than a corporation that can then say, "No, fuck you, Rajesh, we're done."
That would make the existing bureaucracy, which is already huge, even bigger. I don't think that, especially given that all the qualifications around the world are way different, you would need a rigorous system in order to make those qualifications actually matter in the US. So I think going private enterprise by private enterprise is way more efficient.
I actually agree with that.
Yeah, so long as the market demands their labor, I don't see why government bureaucrats would need to further approve it. I don't really.
I don't know. Do you see the perspective of a corporation being able to exploit people though out of that? Like, do you see the ability? I'm not saying it. Like, I'm not asking you to admit it happens, but do you see the potential?
Well, I see the potential, and I do think it can happen. Certainly, I mean, there are cases of it happening. I just think on the whole, like, I don't know, maybe I'm market-brained, but it seems like a relatively voluntary transaction that's mutually beneficial.
Some of my peers sponsor H-2B visas here in Texas. Like, I literally know men who do it. I know men, yeah. And I know their reasons for doing it. Like, I have the ability to sponsor H-2B visas for my company, but like I don't, because you only do it. It is exploitative. You know what I mean? It really is.
How would you consider all wage labor exploitative then, or just immigrants because they're cheaper?
Well, okay. The only reason you would need to, like, at my company, I've been able to hire at will, right? I have no problem staffing. But everywhere I worked before my company, there was this myth that, you can't get good employees. You can't get good employees. But then as soon as I gave the wages that I thought were fair wages, I can fucking staff all I want. I don't have the shortage that my peers are saying they have, right? I have, like, I mean, my YouTube channel helps me, I guess, get people to come to want to work for me. But, like, even then, I've got most of my hires from YouTube. Most of my hires have been organic and I can maintain them because I pay well. So, like, I know the actual market factors, and these guys are kind of bullshitting. It's not that hard to pay well.
I mean, I guess, like, there is such a thing as efficiency wages. It's fine. I mean, I'm glad you pay your workers well. Like, I don't dispute that. I just think, I don't think immigrant labor is always going to be, like, exploitative. And if you do think that, I don't see why you wouldn't think, like, basically all wage labor is exploitative.
Well, like,
Just Gerald comes in with a big 10 asking the question, what jobs do the H1B visa cover? Is it only white collar / tech jobs? And
it's high skilled jobs. It's like jobs that, like, are considered a profession, right?
Like could we consider doctors?
You come over to work in a call center, that would be a H2B visa. That's an unskilled worker. H2B visas are unskilled. And then there's H2A, which is an agricultural worker. And like, I disagree with H2A as well. See, my issue is regardless of what we think, because I think that you could argue for the merits of the H1B, 2B, and 2A programs, but there are corporations exploiting these things. I know for a fact that they are. You know what I mean? So
I know we had it, and I don't know what factor this fell under in terms of how their visas operated, but we had a amusement park near where I went to high school, large company, and for the summer when people would obviously want to go there more, they would hire Russians. We had this big entourage of Russians coming out, and they would give them room and board, like at a nearby hotel, so on and so forth. And they came out for like this specified period of time to work and make money. But this was already an area where people already had issues getting jobs in that arena, and so on and so forth. So I feel like it could be very controversial, even though they were only here for a short time frame. That still was, I mean,
instead of paying living wages to people there, they imported people to exploit.
And it was minimum wage, and like room and board was provided, but I knew some, like your friends, whatever, with them, and the rooms that they put them in were crap. Like, they were all coming to work
They treat them like cattle.
They were all, it was pretty intoxicating to watch them, and like parties and all sorts of fun stuff that they were doing. And I believe a lot of beach areas around here, like on the East Coast, do it as well. Ocean City, New Jersey does it. Like, they had a lot of, they were definitely like Russian of some sort based on their accent. And they were doing it as well, but and they are seasonal, but it was still like,
Well, there are a lot of Albanians and Russians. And
before we go too deep, I got to hop off. I just wanted to pin you, Nonfon, on that patent stuff. Otherwise, I think you're awesome and you're doing a good job.
No,
and,
keep me in check, TickyTack.
Sarah.
Don't worry. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, later.
We just lost our best teammate. She's from India, And much to my dismay, the only thing I didn't like about I loved her work ethic. I loved her performance. She was the best. Her only problem with me was she was a Trump supporter. But the reason she was a Trump supporter, she was on a visa. I don't know the nomenclature, but basically it was a Trump policy. It said, if my company's going to hire someone on a work visa for this level of technology, they have to be paid comparable wages to the American counterparts.
I like that.
That was good for her. And when I heard that, that's the one thing I liked about Trump. Nothing else. Trust me, nothing else. But the company could only renew her visa, I think it's 6 years or 6 months at a time, up to 6 years. And she reached her limit on December 31st, and we had to say goodbye. And now the rest of us have to work harder because she's no longer on the team.
Bryce, I wanted to talk a bit about your description of like hiring foreigners as being under these visas as being exploitative. I mean, I don't see the reason to describe it as that, because they're still coming in for better living conditions. They're coming in for better wages. They're able to support their families. I think what's way more detrimental is the effect that this has on the local.
Why would I hire them now? Right? Why? It's not about whether or not we're increasing their position, right? Just ethically, from my perspective, why am I importing these people to hire?
You believe you'll benefit from it, and so do they.
Is that why?
Well, presumably.
What's the reason for me to do? Because I can get all the staff I want, even though my peers say otherwise, right?
I guess presumably it would be because you want the best of the best, right? And so if you're, searching through resumes and
my employment requires professionalism. I mean, we're tradespeople, like you have to be professional, and you can bring up laborers. The only reason you would need to do it is the only reason the program exists is because supposedly you can't find enough workers in your area and you have to import the labor, right? But in practice, I have found that that's not true. If you pay a living wage, I get people beating my door. Like, I won't pay anybody less than $23 an hour.
Right, but we're talking about specialty.
I don't have a hard time hiring.
If you're a hospital and you're looking for the best heart surgeon out there, right?
That's going to be H1B.
Right, but that's going to be very, very specific. But I think I'd imagine for the others
is only for a job that is basically, pick this up, put this down, push this lawnmower. It's for an entry level, anybody could do it type job. And we have no shortage of just the only reason you would need to import those people is if you don't think that if the citizens in this country aren't willing to do it for the wages you're willing to pay. Right. And so if that's the case, I think it is unethical to say, then let me ship in some immigrants that I can take advantage of that don't have the same value structures as the citizens here. To me, it's not a xenophobic issue. You know what I mean? I don't want their immigration status to be tied to a corporation. I think they should be able to come here, and then corporations should be able to have the choice to hire them amongst anybody else, but not have this, your status in this country is tied with me. But they should be able to compete like everybody else.
Is it the idea that, I think of maybe an assembly line, for instance, and it's minimum wage. Like you said, pick it up, put it down, push a button, something like that. Do we have enough people here who are not do we have enough people here that are not skilled enough that would settle for that? Or is everybody here standing in the medium level or above, where it's like, I'm not enough to be skilled, but I'm not low enough to be a button pusher either.
Yeah,
right. So I feel like everybody has a college degree now, right? I mean, not everybody, but it's just like it's a common thing, right? Everybody had to go to school, everybody had to do this, and everybody not to say that there are not basic button
in my world it's uncommon. I'm a high school dropout. There's been one person in my bloodline that graduated high school. I don't know.
But what I'm saying is, would they be willing to per se, because we have a lot of issues with the minimum wage and where it stands and so on and so forth. And that seems to be the biggest complaint, that people don't make enough money, right? So are they just not willing to accept that job as pushing buttons, for instance?
I don't think that's the case.
There seem to be people like in meat packing that don't want to be meat packers, but immigrants are willing to be meat packers. Same thing for construction.
Right.
And I do think I mean, the labor market overall is just relatively hot right now. Like if you watch like the Fed press conferences, it's too hot for their liking. You know, we raised interest rates to try to make the labor market worse off, to make it harder to get a job because we want to lower inflation. But it's been persistently tight. It's been, job growth has been persistently high despite the high interest rates, although we are finally cutting them now.
I have a question. If we're so afraid of like what's going to happen when the immigrants come and take over, why don't like workers unionize and stuff like that? Like that seems like a natural response to like, we want to demand better wages. So then you unionize instead of like trying to get rid of H1B visas.
Well, there's two ways to attack it. Do you attack it supply side, or do you attack it through regulation? Why?
Yeah, there's the more xenophobic way and the less xenophobic way.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's two ways of tackling the same problem. You either cut the people that potentially are there for hiring, so that will increase wages, or you regulate. Businesses, I mean, they've been lately businesses have been really...
Can I ask one thing though? Because I looked into it and I saw no evidence that getting rid of immigrants actually raises wages. It seems like it's corporations that are looking to pay the lowest amount, and therefore it's like capitalism. Maybe that incentivizes. So if you want to get rid of that incentive for corporations to make the most profits possible, I'd agree with you there.
Well,
the Fox is right on that.
I mean, why not do both? Why not both unionize and remove?
That's what I was getting at.
Workers. Yeah, exactly.
Why not? There is no
step on snake is right too.
There's a lot.
There is no direct. Sorry.
Right.
There's a direct correlation between if you have X number of jobs and you need to fill X number, you're giving more power to the employee.
Not if they're not unionized. Definitely not if they're not unionized.
I don't know.
What's the position? If you have X amount of jobs, you're giving more power to the employee. How?
We just got a 7% raise just because of the market conditions and that people are moving to other jobs, which is making employers want to keep their better employees, so they're paying higher. So the more fluid a person is to move the job, the higher the wages, because people are going to be able to, find that better job, and if they want to keep their good employees, they're going to get a pay increase.
Did you guys see?
Hold on, Joe. Wrongful rage coming in with the Big Ten. Sounds like people just want to take bargaining power from skilled native workers. That way CEOs can keep the pay low and the profit high. But
correct.
I mean, that's just capitalism at its finest, right? Like if you're incentivized, if I know I can pay cheaper, for person A, B, and C versus person D, E, and F, cost twice the amount. I mean, it's and I get the same amount of work, from each of them. I feel like that's kind of I feel like that's a no-brainer.
I kind of disagree with that. Like in my experience, because I'm a capitalist, right? And I've found that I can't take a chance on my high value employees going elsewhere, right? I can't take a chance on somebody who can really produce in a high skill area. Now, if you're talking low skill that anybody can do, that's different. But if you're talking high skill jobs that not anybody can do, I can't just try to pay the least. I have to be the most.
That's what I want to know.
That's how the market works, baby.
High skill? Are you guys talking high skill or low skill? A few years ago in some town, they decided they were going to get rid of all the immigrants. And they did. They found all addresses, hit them at the same time, kicked them all out. What happened was the Americans who lived there would not do most of us picking fruit and that type of, stuff. They wouldn't do it. Well, they wouldn't do it, and they had to let the immigrants back in.
That's where the real question gets asked. So if Americans won't do it for the wages they're paying, then maybe a fucking tomato does need to cost $2.
Exactly.
Maybe that.
Wait, hold on. No shot. You would rather. You would rather your prices go up than provide an opportunity for an immigrant.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
Okay, I want that immigrant to come here and get paid the same that I need to get paid. I don't think that immigrant has any less need for money than me. I don't think that I should have this standard and a brown person should have this standard. I think that's racist, bro.
Well, different people are willing.
You got to say.
Different people are willing to accept different wage levels for different reasons. Like, it doesn't have to be racist. Like, someone.
So you're brown, you're supposed to live off $4 a fucking day.
No, if you're less productive, you get less factor payments. If that's how it works. We have a system where we disperse payments to factor. The less productive your factor production is, the less factor payments you receive. I think that's a good system in general. There are,
I don't want to monopolize this thing and be a jabroni talking so much, but like
a jabroni.
I'll say this, man. I started making money like 2 years ago, right? And like I started a business that just fucking blew up like you wouldn't believe. And before my business started, I was incredibly right wing, like super right wing, like really conservative. The more money I've made, the more left I've become. And like the more I've realized, like these fuckers are like it is. I have the entire tax code behind me, dude. Like before I even start paying taxes as a business, it's so much more fair. And like these motherfuckers, like you can't do it by yourself. People had to build these highways in the 30s for. You can't just set me in Afghanistan and think I'm going to be successful, right? Because so much had to happen from so many people for my business to be successful. It's
I agree.
So the lefty shit is. I don't know. The more money I make, the more I find that, like, no, these fucking corporations are greedy fuckers. Why am I subsidizing Walmart's employees when they're making $40 billion in profit every year, but then we're paying for their fucking employees to have food stamps? You know what I mean? And like,
I didn't totally.
Are you okay with paying 20% more in product? Because if that's a trade-off for you, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
It doesn't have to be that way. They don't need to make $40 fucking extra billion in net. That was $40 billion in net, dude. Not $40 billion in gross. $40 billion in fucking net in a year.
By the way,
essentially, he's saying that will in turn, in order to pay the employees more, they will have to increase the cost of the tomato, for instance.
Yes.
And then, but in turn, the company is not. Hold on.
Living massively.
In turn, the company's not necessarily netting more because they're paying more to the employees in order to compensate. And let me interrupt you for just a moment. This is exciting news. NPC the game comes in with the big 150 of something, and he says, "Hi, Sarah. You, Joe Cool, and Finkel are nominated for several huge awards on my first annual Panelverse live stream awards this Saturday, 1/4 at 8 p.m. EST. It would be an honor if you could come." And let me tell you, that's exciting. Now, you caught me on a weird weekend because my daughter has a game and it's all around that time frame. So what I will do, I've gone ahead, I'm subscribed. And what I'll do is I'll hit the notification bell. If I can tune in between games, she's got quite a few of them. I will try to listen from the stands if I can, but I know I won't be able to pop on because I'll be in the middle of a giant arena and it's not going to be fun.
I'm down, bro.
Joe Cool says he'll be there. Finkel, how about you? Are you joining Saturday night at 8 o'clock?
Saturday night at 8. I can't commit, but I can make it tentative.
Fair enough.
And NPC, you're going to have one of my friends text me or something. I'm really bad at this. I'll forget when I get off this panel. Have someone that you know.
I know, I'm there too. I'm like, I got to hit a notification bell. So what I'd like you to do, NPC, if it might help, if you have Discord, hit me on either the Discord or the Instagram or the Twitter, the X. Those, you can find them all in either my description or my About Me section on the channel. Shoot that link over to me there. I don't know if you have it set already or not, but shoot me that link and I'll be sure to send it to these fine gentlemen. I'm going to hit the notification bell and hopefully I'll be able to kind of tune in a little bit and I'll be there from the chat. But thank you so much. That's super exciting. I'm down for that.
You got another super chat there. Oh, you see it.
I'm getting don't tell me
no
how to run
no backseat streaming, Jesus.
Backseat streaming. That was good, Mel.
I want to get in here too.
And Finkel coming in with a big 20. Tomatoes cost more than $2. Yes, we do. We're very expensive. And Wrongful Rage coming with the Big 10. Incentivize good work with good pay. People will do more and others will buy more.
They're right about that. I agree with that.
So you can have those profits all the same. Importing work sounds more costly in the long run. I stand by that too. I think that is a good point to make. I mean, I know one thing: if you take care of your employees will take care of you. And when your employees start feeling like you don't love them back, well, guess what? They leave and they go elsewhere because John Smith's company down the street is not only paying more, but they hear it's a nice environment. Like, I would imagine as an employee like community, like all it takes is for one angry employee and the rest are going with them. I've seen that in action.
Well, I can assure you.
I just I want to point out, because unfortunately we all need our chance to get in here to respond to so much.
Go ahead.
I think it's not a zero-sum thing when we talk about cost of living and wages. So if things cost 20% more, but you're making 40% more, then things will be relatively cheaper to you, right? The thing that gives us the most bargaining power against our bosses and corporations, stuff like that, is unions. It's not getting rid of immigrants. That doesn't increase your bargaining power at all. Historically, the only thing that has had a direct effect on the bargaining power of workers is unions.
And the companies know that. They don't like unions. That would show you that unions work because they hate them. At least they can work. They hate fucking unions. You might think Pinkertons and all of that shit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My company's in the process of joining a union right now. We're actually joining.
A little while ago, y'all were talking about various levels of skill labor. And I have a question around that. At the beginning, when we had the second intro, some guy said Sarah's an adequate host. What the hell does he mean, adequate? What is that? And how are you measuring the skill level? Adequate? I just don't get it.
It means I let him talk enough. And
it was personal.
I don't shut him down as hard as maybe other people do. I let him. I think it was, you're referring to Andrew Wilson on the dumpster fire video. He says Sarah has been an adequate moderator and host. Yeah, it's because he every now and then he'll come on a panel and he'll just burn it all down, and it's comical and everybody loves it. Nothing bad by any means. Many have come and done the same thing, but I allow him his room and his space to yell at people. So
actually, that's a compliment, because now I know who it's from. That's the best he can do.
If Andrew says great. You're okay, that's
that's a big deal.
It'll do.
He's not gonna give you your fucking.
That's like getting a giant trophy, from anyone else.
Yeah, it's from an average guy.
No, we love Andrew over here. It's fun.
I'm an incident manager, and I wouldn't say I'm the best. I very proudly say I'm not the worst. And I don't know who qualifies it if it's skilled or unskilled. But I would drive through, say, McDonald's or Burger King drive-through, and some underpaid employee is taking my order, and then I drive around to where they're taking the order from, and I pay them, and they're taking the next person's order, and they're giving me the correct change most of the time. And and then I go to the next window, and they get me the correct order. And I'm thinking, I could not do that.
They forget my ketchup every fucking time. I'm just...
I don't know. Sometimes I also look at that and I'm like, you had one job. It really, one job. I'll give Chick-fil-A a lot of credit. It's very rare that I would go through Chick-fil-A and be disappointed. There was one time they messed up my order and I wasn't even mad, because I was like, you know what? You get one mistake a year. You'll be all right. Okay, I give you credit. But sometimes I get really irritated because I'm like, it can't be that bad.
Just recently, I was in Florida, and we got all the way back to the hotel and found out the guy forgot the sauce and shit. I called up there. I was like, man, I'm not coming back up there. I just want you to know, man, I drove really far for that shit. He's like, where you from, man? It's Chicago, West Side. He was from my same neighborhood. We're in Florida, Joe, and I ran back up there and tried to talk to him and shit. He gave me some free food, which I fell asleep and never ate, but that was interesting. It's from my neighborhood.
Fair. That's fair. Wrongful rage coming in with the Big Ten. I love it when wrongful rage is listening while they're working. Makes it interesting. What about non-union states? They just get screwed in this model. What is their protection on their bargaining power? Yeah, that's a good question. If you're unable,
there are no non-union states, though.
Yeah,
there
are right-to-work states, but you can still form a union. It's just
that's like Civil War era rhetoric for like the states that didn't join the union.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think
so. I want to ask Bandit something. Bandit, you said that unions cause us to lose jobs. I just wanted to add something. Have you ever seen how many construction workers stand on the same site waiting around to do something?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it creates more jobs and more people standing around on the same job.
I did construction non-union, and we always had work. We didn't. I worked for. I mean, I did 22-hour days. Like you don't union workers. We didn't work in Philly because if you were non-union working in Philly, your truck was going to get destroyed. They would take baseball bats. We would always go in armed into the city. With we'd have a shotgun in the back, and we would be armed to go to the city to install freaking doors from like Lowe's, for example, just because the union people would go in and bash your car. And if you're going into a non-union worker working a subletted job out from Lowe's, your car would get messed up.
So we haven't seen union actions like that since like the 1920s, by the way.
Yeah, but unions, the entire point of unions is to push wages above equilibrium. You might not cause job losses in the sector.
I looked this up.
This was 10 years ago.
I think we need some clarification. So non-union workplaces are those where employees negotiate their own employment terms and employers have the most power. In contrast, unionized workplaces...
It's happened to me multiple times. Sorry, I was answering
I have one rule.
Sorry.
In contrast, unionized workplaces have a collective bargaining agreement that protects all workers even if they aren't union members. The states that have right-to-work laws, which make it illegal to require union memberships or dues, are Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Nebraska, Nevada, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming.
So as you pointed out, those just you can't take due. So the unions in those states aren't very strong because they don't make a lot of money from their patrons. But you can still have a union in Arizona. Like there are unions in Arizona.
Right. This is saying like they can't force you to join the union. It just because you work there. Is that what that means?
Yeah. Why would you be?
Yeah, that's what right to work means. Yeah.
To join the union.
Okay.
I have to log on to work, but I wanted to shout out. Is it Nonfon? No.
Nonfon.
Nonfon.
Yeah.
Or should I just say, "What's up, my NGGR"? I don't know what that means, but I want to shout out. Clearly, this young man has done his homework. He knows what he's talking about. I'm a little worried because I feel like because of his age, he's probably new to arguing on the internet. Like me, I don't know if he knows how to interrupt because that's what they're going to do. Nonfon, they're going to interrupt you, talk over you like that first guy who left. But shout out, very intelligent sounding young man, and shout out to Sarah. And I have to go to work now. Non-union.
Well, enjoy your work. We love you, Finkel, and thanks for stopping by as always.
Okay,
Jester all coming with the Big Ten. There is no standing around on my job sites. Always something to work on. Always moving. Always build. Big lift. Swing hammer. What kind of construction workers do y'all got?
I mean, it doesn't. First of all, like like unions can like protect jobs in certain workplaces, but it doesn't necessarily mean they have a net positive effect overall. Like clearly a union can push wages above equilibrium. I mean, half the point of a union is to push wages above equilibrium. In that case, the quantity demanded is going to be greater than the quantity supplied, right? Or sorry, other way around. But
yeah, I don't know. I'm not smart enough in this stuff.
I was using unions to address bargaining power more so than like saying you'll directly get higher wages.
Well, I think you'll get higher wages, but that comes at the cost of other jobs because you push wages above equilibrium.
Historically, unions have been very anti-immigration.
That is true. They've also been racist before. Yeah, because they exist to protect the workers within the union, and they don't want other people like undercutting them. Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. Also, historically, police unions exist. It doesn't mean I love police unions.
Well, sure.
But unions pay the.
Hang on a second. So, do you guys know what unions do? Right? You have to pay dues.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think the percentage of your wages are when you pay dues?
It's not a lot.
It's not like you pay dues and then unionization happens.
No, so in my union, right, it is a little bit deceiving, but like you pay 94 cents now, 94 cents for every hour you work. And that goes to the apprentice school and the health and welfare fund. And then you pay your dues, and typically for all the trades unions, it's going to be 1 hour of double time or like 2 hours of scale. So like in Dallas, scale is $40 an hour, so your dues are like $80 a month. Then on top of that, you have to pay a death benefit for every person who dies, and each local has a different amount. But like usually, there's like some 2 or 3 retired guys that die every month that you have to chip in like an extra $20 for. So like your dues every month probably are about $250, but that includes your pension contribution and your entire healthcare plan for your entire family, zero premium, and that's basically all trade unions.
Yeah, I just looked it up. It's $400. The average for the United States is $400, or roughly 2 hours of pay per month.
Yeah,
is what union dues are.
That's gonna be standard.
I mean, my understanding is that
it's not in your premium for your health insurance anywhere else, right? And it does include your pension, which is it's a heavy pension, and union workers get both pension and a Social Security, unlike like government or public union workers. They do not get Social Security. They only get the pension.
That's what my grandpa went on strike for. He was a janitor at my school, and it was to keep his pension, to keep it strong. It's not, they still had a pension, but they were trying to remove money from it.
Yeah, the public unions, their pensions aren't as strong, and because they're liable to get fucked with by, I don't know, but they can get messed with by bureaucrats, right? But like the union health and welfare funds, most of the trade unions, they've all been around since like the late 1800s. So they're actually
this wasn't public, by the way. This was a Catholic school.
Well, I mean, the trade unions, their pensions are pretty solid and safe.
Well, it depends on your union, because I was forced to sign on to a union in Southern California just to have a job. To say that I was a part of that union to drive a dump truck when I was not going to get.
Teamsters?
No. This wasn't Teamster. No, this was in Southern California. This was just to have the job. So you can sign on to it. There's a lot of like games they play with that. You can sign on to it for a period to like just be on that job. Just like you can for
negatives to union,
like a government job.
Well, unions increasing the minimum wage, that necessarily essentially means a quantity. I mean, there's no, unless the demand curve for labor is perfectly inelastic, you can't simultaneously increase pay and increase the number of jobs. One of those two things has to change at least a little bit. Demand for labor is relatively inelastic, but not perfectly inelastic.
In the states where the union is actually less strong, I actually think it kind of is more effective. Like more, you want more strength than what they have in like Alabama or Mississippi, perhaps, right? But like Texas, Arkansas, even the trades unions, they're nowhere near as strong as they are in the other states. But like they're still required because like all the union companies are going to be so compliant, you know what I mean, with any type of requirements that specific government contractors or other type of more, you know, high-end and that authorized world, the union's always going to specialize in that, you know. So it's nice to have, I don't know, I think the states where it's not as strong, it doesn't affect the marketplace in such a negative way, and it's cool to have that, you know, union to help.
I think you're talking about scales, because I think workplace level unions where it's like we work at this factory, so we're this union versus all steel workers uniting is what's more efficient.
I'm talking about the trades unions.
No, I know, but I mean like
workers, aircraft mechanics, Teamsters, all the AFL-CIO unions.
Yeah, I'm saying what I'm trying to say is that at that scale it becomes inefficient. What we need are unions that are more locally scaled, like where you work.
See, that I don't know about.
Well, Wrongful Rage comes up with the Big Ten saying most unions are mafia. They'll help you, but you'll pay for it your whole life. I'm good on that.
You can like quit.
Well, you only get
my understanding is that most people are made better off by unions if they're in the union, and that they get a higher increase in wages than the dues that they pay. That does come at a cost of other jobs, though, because wages above equilibrium.
You're right about that too.
But only because there's not enough legislation that protects those jobs over companies' profits. Both Democrats and Republicans basically bow down to corporations when they say, well, you can't have legislation like that because then we lose profits. Well yeah,
legislation
like eventually we're going to have to.
What's the purpose of a business without profits?
Well, no, you can still make profit, but you don't have to maximize them all the time.
What would be an example of legislation that wouldn't also decrease the amount of jobs or decrease innovation or something?
So it'd be saying that you can't use your need to maintain a certain profit level to justify getting rid of certain jobs.
So what? Preventing layoffs? Like, what?
Can I?
Yeah, would you ban layoffs?
Unionization and jobs. No. Just give me a second here. So, the unionization, they control government incentivized jobs, meaning like schools, public municipalities, things like that. So construction labor will be incentivized on those jobs. So you'll get a per diem or a higher wage. So versus like working in the private sector, you'll maybe make $25 an hour for building a foundation versus where you're building something like a bus stop, like I did in Southern California. I built the Calabasas bus stop and I was making $55 an hour. But what that does is that incentivizes, like you said, union labor, but that pushes out private sectors. And what you get there is, like a lot of people complain about, is, collusion. So if you know the guy that's, on the city council or whatever, you're going to get that job. And that's where people have a problem with, like, the whole unionization aspect of it.
It doesn't.
You're going to get that job because.
Too.
Would the
I'm sorry?
would the union have? I mean, essentially, because there are different types of unions, right? There's more localized unions, but then there's national or even regional style, like the teachers union and so on and so forth. But then there could be localized unions, right? So essentially,
like the Fox was talking about was more like local, like co-ops, like employee owned. It kind of seemed like.
Well, co-op is like a different way of running the business entirely.
Yeah, but I want clarification. You would ban layoffs entirely, or what's the exact policy there?
No, not banning layoffs. You certainly
what are you going to do?
Like, certainly say that, like, if a whole bunch of workers unionize, you can't just then suddenly have layoffs. You need to provide a proper
already have that
for it.
Sometimes companies get away with it, but not under my Biden NLRB. They don't.
Right. So we need more robust legislation at all to patch up the loopholes and workarounds that they still used to get away with it. That's all I'm saying.
I can tell you one of the unseen damages that like unions cause that like I've seen that like has directly affected all of you guys and what you pay for things is like there's overregulation, right? To the point where like it's hard for me to explain this without using technical terms, but there's a lot of times unions take part in this with corporations that tie into those public funds, right? Because especially in the medical world or like education, almost all the funds come from public, right? So this is a very
municipalities.
Yeah, like the public funds are a very big pot, and it's hard to get into that world, and you want to get into that world to get that money. But then what they do is they create all these regulations that are unnecessary, okay? And I could use technical terms to explain it, but it'd go right over your head. But they basically will make a job that could be done for $1 million of high quality for $1 million, and they'll make it cost $10 to $15 million, right? And it'll be of no higher quality. Or no, it'll be of higher quality, but unnecessarily, like a gold remote control for your TV, right? It's better than the plastic one, but it doesn't need to be. You know what I mean? It's unnecessarily more expensive. And the reason that these corporations like the unions doing that and like the unions taking part in that is because it keeps guys like me from being able to compete with them, because they create these regulations that make it so expensive for you to enter the marketplace that you're just out. You're no longer competition. And then that does lead to monopolies, and then that leads to the unions having problems where we go on strikes and like lowered competition. And so there is negatives that no one ever talks about that I've seen.
A grid, you're being paged to the panel.
Can I give you
panel, please? Well, let me read this one off real quick. Wrongful Rage coming in with the big 20. Did anyone notice every time the writers union goes on strike, our entertainment goes down during and afterwards? Almost like they bargained for more pay, forgave less good work, and the public suffers endless force-fed crap.
I don't know if you look at what won at the Oscars. There's like really good stuff.
But also, part of what they went on strike for was for I forget what they call it. The checks when like you play reruns. Residuals, yeah, with residuals for like streaming services. That actually incentivizes them to do a good job, because now if their show gets watched repeatedly, they get more money. They did also do the AI thing, which I think is dumb. That's not productivity enhancing, but regardless.
And why do you think Netflix only does 1 seasons now? Because they don't want to pay these people residuals. So there's a cost of doing this.
No, it's because Netflix picks up like a whole bunch of properties. They basically bulk pick up properties every season, knowing that like majority of them aren't going to do well, hoping that like 2 or 3 of them will.
Well, the two good ones that they always max them out at 1 or 2 seasons. So in the past, we used to have 8 or 9 seasons for a show.
He probably just like the shows.
They still have to pay residuals,
so.
even if it's 1 season. Like they still, as long as people watch that 1 season, they still get residuals. Is my understanding, at least.
Right. Yeah, that's not going to make a difference whether it was. I mean, the difference would be the more shows, obviously, the more residuals you're going to make. But like capping it 1 season, it can. A lot of that could do with like how well the show did, or are the characters coming back, or maybe the producer, whoever, just didn't want it to go any further, or they just get terrible reviews, they suck, and you move on.
Can I give an example of how?
Go ahead.
No, can I give an example of how municipalities work? So I have multiple friends in firefighter services and things like that. So there is a budget that they're given for the year. And if they roll over that budget, which means they expend more, then they have to justify that to the town council. If they don't reach that limit, then they have to explain why it was not that way. Like in the town of Truckee, well, we didn't do that much snow removal, or we didn't do this or that. So there's an incentivized reason why most municipalities or councils or state governments will kind of pad their results because they want that extra money. I mean, this is just basic economics for people. And they will do this over and over, and they will pad the results so that they get more funding. This is exactly why unions don't work.
I don't think the writers have control over that, though, right? Because this would be like Netflix that would be deciding we're going to bring this many series.
I give a shit. I'm not talking about writers in Hollywood. I'm talking about municipalities. I'm talking about people in city councils.
I don't understand how this
ties
into what we were talking about before is all.
Could I go back on one thing that you said?
I think.
Go ahead. Okay, well, I'll just continue. Yeah, you mentioned that one of the, like, we need some way in order to make unions stronger so that people could actually make money and incentivize corporations to actually give more money to the employees as opposed to incentivizing profits. Why not do limitations on the amount of foreign employees that can be hired so that there's less way to union break? Because one of the main ways to do that right now is to just hire people without increasing pay or even decreasing it.
Because the unemployment rate in the nation is going to remain the same, and the ability for corporations to union break is going to be roughly the same, with or without immigrants.
No, you will
get rid of immigrants. Let me finish. Let me land this plane, please. I need to land this. I need to land this to make sure I answer your question here. The only way to prevent this is legislation. The amount of immigrants isn't going to make this impossible.
Could you repeat the last sentence? I didn't quite hear that.
The amount of the only thing that's going to prevent union busting is legislation. The amount of immigrants is not what makes this feasible or unfeasible.
Wouldn't the increased amount of immigrants specifically made in order to union bust increase the unemployment, at least in the short term? Because you're not allowing people to go back to work, and instead you're hiring additional people who just moved into the country, as opposed to if there weren't other options, you would just increase
unemployment. Yeah, like I said, unemployment's going to be the same, and so you'll always have the same amount of pool of unemployed workers seeking work, and so it won't matter. And so it won't matter if they're native-born or immigrant workers.
Why is it going to be the same?
Hey, wrongful rage.
Because getting rid of immigrants doesn't necessarily magically change unemployment one way or another.
Not getting rid, not letting more people in specifically in order to union bust. I'm not talking about getting rid of.
Yeah, again, the only thing that makes that feasible or unfeasible for corporations is legislation.
Yeah, legislation such as not allowing corporations to import more people.
Such as you can't do union busting.
I don't think that's true. You don't think that you could sell the merit of a union,
the last union busting
on its merits? Like, you don't think that,
do you know?
Amazon. Like the last big one.
Isn't Starbucks being sued right now for union busting? I don't know. I don't follow it closely, but
what is union busting?
It's a
union busting.
So the most simplest example would be like if you're on strike, hiring a bunch of scab workers to work in your place. But it's a general series of tactics that makes unionizing and taking union actions difficult or basically impossible.
It's basically intimidating the workers from trying to form a union.
No.
Imposing.
Wait a second. That's not intimidating. That's not union busting. That's not union busting. Union busting would be stopping employees. No, it's not. It would be stopping employees from accessing benefits, which is not happening in California or in a lot of.
To prevent you from having a union or doing actions.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure the allegation that Starbucks was being sued for was like they closed a store that was planning on unionizing. Like that would be an example of union busting. I don't know where that lawsuit stands, but I believe they were.
I think that's a pretty weak example of union busting. But okay,
that's going to happen more often if
no. I mean, I know I'm an employer, right? And I own businesses. I'm about to buy another business, as a matter of fact. We should close mid-June, I think. I don't know, but if I've never had to deal with unions. But I've had, friends in the industry who have, and their philosophy is really simple. You can vote the union in on Friday, and we will shut down Monday.
I think that's illegal.
It's not. They've been doing it for decades.
I'm pretty sure it is.
I think they're I think the real question is like, how do you, like, why, is it possible to present a union to a corporation where it's mutually beneficial?
I can't hear whoever's trying to talk, so could we?
Is it me?
No, that's not free capitalism. If you don't do what we say, then we'll just shut down your system. We won't work for you anymore. That is actual like union labor. Like you, we won't do what you want.
I mean,
Right,
it's
but
also
then
more
can't
than that.
just fill in with
It's really
other.
that simple.
There's negotiations that go on beforehand and stuff like that. They have rallies well before they even start striking. There's many more actions than just striking out there.
Rallies. I fired a ton of people, and there's always been somebody to replace them every single time.
Yeah, I never contested that.
I don't know.
But you literally,
or you automate. You suffer. You pay more now, and then you automate. I mean, look at the food industry. They wanted higher wages, and what do we do now? We have robots to hand us food now.
The Amazon stores.
The only two things that are stopping corporations from automating their production lines are legislation and unions.
That's not true.
No.
Okay. What else?
It's expensive.
No. R&D, it costs a lot of money to research how to automate stuff.
I can really who's actually educated on this panel or has employed people. And
so for example, if a burger flipping robot, there are companies that have already R&D'd that. It's just whether or not you can get a big enough loan to afford it.
Well, it's whether or not you think it'll be worth it in the long term. If the wages of employees are so cheap that it's cheaper just to hire the employees than you hire them.
Nonfon, I love you, buddy, but you're overthinking this. It's really simple. Sure, we may not be able to make a robot to make hamburgers. That's fine. The longer hamburgers cost $18 each, the less people buy them, the less the company's worth, the stockholders cash out, the CEO takes a golden parachute, the company goes bankrupt, and those people don't have jobs.
That's not how it works at the end of the day, though.
Well, here's how this works. Wrongful
Actually,
rage
it is.
with the big. Please don't interrupt me. Wrongful rage coming in with the Big 10. I do have money, but it's from hard work. Been working hard for Ivory Tower. Working hard from the Ivory Tower I always wanted. From the trash heap to the clouds. Now it's Sarah's money. Thank you, Wrongful Rage. That's very kind of you.
Solid work. Thank you, sir.
The reason it doesn't work that way, by the way, is because mega corporations will buy up other smaller businesses. That way their $12 hamburger is still the cheapest out there.
Yeah, we're about to see that in practice because that's where we're at.
And we also haven't had the
Grid. Are you saying that eventually, like, the companies aren't, because people are going to stop buying, right? And then what you're saying is that eventually they'll have to shut down, and now all these people lose their jobs.
Sure.
And you're saying that's inevitably gonna
right. And we're picking on hamburgers, but it works in every industry, right? Like I used to, I hired people, I paid them really well, but I demanded work for that money. They had to show up and get shit done. I fired a lot of people for not doing their work or thinking they were smarter than I was. And we're trying to get one over on me, I guess you would say. And, it's an interesting thing because it's very interesting to listen to people talk because I've been on both sides, right? Like I grew up dirt poor. I've never actually worked at McDonald's, but I've worked at some really low paying jobs. Coming up and now I at one point a few years ago, I had 60 people, working for me and, in various businesses, and I'm about to do it again. I don't know why. It's stupid. I retired. I should stay retired, but I really like it. But it's the interesting thing is, as an employer, as a CEO, if I don't make enough money to make it worth my while, and I'll just give you some raw numbers on the deal I'm doing now. We're debating not even doing the deal, and and when I tell you the numbers, you'll be like, well, that's fucking insane, but let's go with it. Buying a business, it's going to cost me $1.7 million. We're going to buy the real estate that goes with it for another $1 million. It's 2.7. We're going to put 20% down. That's 10% of our money matched by 10% of the seller's money. So that gives us a financed a 2.5 million at about 7.5 to 8% over 15 years. That's rough numbers. That's about $230,000 a year in debt service, and with a cash flow of about $460,000 a year currently. Although they haven't generated their cash flow numbers this year, they're going to do about 8 million this year. We anticipate being able to do about 8 million in sales, or maybe 9 million once we take over. And I have 16 employees, and those people are well paid. They're talented, skilled tradesmen. But if they fuck with me, I will find someone to replace them.
What industry?
I can't tell you that. I'm under an NDA.
I mean, like,
he's
I can tell you
buying my YouTube channel, guys.
Yeah, it's a commercial. It's a commercial contractor.
That's what I do.
We're starting the debate school.
It's a commercial contractor.
No, that's my world too. You know, I'm in the same thing. Like I own a commercial contracting business, and I don't feel like I can just replace dudes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like these, like, because the guys that I got that won't lie, cheat, or show up and bust their ass, like, I don't think I can just.
I used to feel the same way you did, man. I did, because I was in automotive, right? And I always felt like, it's so hard to find a skilled mechanic, a guy that'll show up. And at one point, I had my neighbor. He was in another business, but he also used technicians. And he's like, man, I just need to hire people that'll show up fucking sober. And I'm like,
so it is hard to find good workers,
bro. I will fire. Shows up even thinking about being drunk, he is fucking gone. Like gone. Like, he don't even get out of your vehicle. I'll just bring you your check. And I look, I was a tough person to work for. I really was. But we worked at the sharp end of the stick. I did we did a lot of business, and we did pay well for the industry I was in. But it was hard to find people. But there was always a new employee. There's always somebody looking for a job. Now you can get in your head and think, well, there's nobody as good as the guy I have in front of me.
Well, I can find people with the right attitude, but licensed, qualified technician.
Well, now see, that's now like if you're an electrical HVAC, and I'm going to add an HVAC into this. I've got a meeting tomorrow to buy an HVAC company as well to kind of be able to do contracts on two contracts on the same job sites, and just make more money. But at the end of the day, it's not hard work.
Hey, good one. Let me know your company name, because I will never hire you.
No, you shouldn't hire me. As a matter of fact, I fired more customers than you have any idea. Fire a customer in a heartbeat.
No, I'm just gonna hire this guy.
I think firing clients is a very important piece for a company, because
it's very important in a business to learn how to fire.
I get high.
You know what, Sarah? I have to talk to you after. No, I'm just kidding. Grid, I will say this much: when you were so quick to say like you're going to fire workers, but when you said that like you're going to fire your customers as well, I can respect that you're not like, oh, this person's going to bring me money. I have to like, grovel at their feet for their business and stuff. So I do respect that.
I mean, see, this is a mindset issue mostly. There's always more fucking money. I had a client, and one of my rules, Mel, is that if we were, and this was with the race team, if we were working on your car, if you contracted with us to work on your car, and we took it to the track and we were servicing that vehicle, and we're trying to push you into number one, right? Nobody else could touch that car, period. We didn't care if it went home with you at night and you rubbed it with a diaper or whatever you did with it, but nobody else messed with the car. No other mechanic. You didn't take it to another shop to have.
What if I rubbed it with a crystal?
Whatever. So I had this client, and he was just so erratic. And he calls me so we got back from Mid-Ohio, had a pretty good outing there. Car was really fast, really, really dialed in. He did very well. And he wanted me to dyno the car, and I'm like, look, I have a full week, can't dyno the car until the end of the week. call me again. Hey, could you get me in? No, can't get you in. End of the week, we'll do it. No problem. So he calls me up like the next day, and he's like, hey, do you think Rebello Racing used hardened cam bolts when they rebuilt the motor? And I'm like, well, Rebello's, they're fucking legit, so I'm sure they did. Whatever it is, I'm sure they fucking did it. Why don't you call them and ask? Well, of course, he had pissed Rebello off too, but and I'm like, why do you need to know? And he said, oh, I'm at such and such a shop, and we're just going to throw it on the dyno really quick to get some numbers. And I'm like, Mark, come get your fucking shit out of my shop. I'm firing you as a customer. Do not bring your shit back to my shop. And he had his driver bring the trailer over and get all of his crap out of my shop, and we loaded it into the trailer and sent him on his way. And he was like, he's probably bringing in, he didn't spend that much. He's probably spent 80, 90 grand a year with us.
Wow.
Is that because...
Speaking of, Wrong for Rage comes up with another Big 10 saying, Grid 1 spitting facts. Good to see you, sir. Thank you. To you, Mel.
Nice one, Brass. Wait, also, Grid, I'm just... do you think it's union busting if you fire someone for starting to organize a union?
Yes.
I think that is. See, that's what I thought union busting was.
That is.
Yeah,
actually,
I think that's an example of union busting. Yeah, I don't know how broadly the term is applied to just like anti-union.
Yeah, I don't know,
anti-union videos that corporations play.
Unions are a pain in the dick, right? You can't fire a guy. You can't write.
Well, I just wanted. There are a lot of allegations against Starbucks. They seem to be losing the cases so far, but they're still appealing, some of them. But I have to know.
And they kind of deserve it, so I don't really care.
Hey, Grit, I just have a hypothetical for you.
Yeah, man, go ahead.
So I already know your answer to this, but say I was working for you, and I was division lead, just hypothetical, and the division decided to unionize. What would you do?
If you were in one of my shops,
yes,
and you decided to organize a union?
Yes.
Oh, you could organize it. That's fine. But then I would shut down that facility.
Exactly. That's what I was getting.
But I don't know. Is that? I thought it was illegal, like immediately after a plant unionized, to shut them down just because they unionized. I could be wrong on that. I just
that
thought
depends how big of a corporation you are.
Look,
okay.
So here's the thing. I can do what. It's my company. I don't have a board of directors. I don't have anybody to answer to. I am the almighty, all-seeing, fearless.
There are like federal laws against it.
Yeah, I mean you can't
but you
hire
can't
children.
Force a company. You can't force a company to stay open.
You can't hire children.
If a company, but essentially the company.
I can hire children. They just can't work more than 20 hours a week. Don't tell
you can't
me what
hire people under 15 or whatever the minimum age is.
We're talking about laws against it, by the way. We're not talking about like keeping them open, right? We're talking about charging or making it possible for these companies to be sued after the fact.
Oh, you could try and sue me.
I feel like you can't say.
Lena Khan's still here. We got a few more days.
A company chose to shut down. I would presume it would be like, well, they just didn't feel like dealing with it. They couldn't, or maybe if the demands of the union were so great that maybe they were like, well, we got two options.
I mean, how do we embrace communism?
If I feel like my wallet is going to be adversely affected by you unionizing my shop, great. You can unionize. More power to the union. But I'm shutting that bitch down.
I mean, if we had communism, though, then the workers could own the shop instead.
You can own the shop right now. You can organize the co-op.
They have a neat place that works, and that is China and Russia. I invite you to visit either.
Yeah, those are terrible examples of communism in 2024. Do you know what Marxism is?
Yeah.
Russia is more similar to the style of unions that exist right now in the U.S.
You're talking out of your head.
You say Russia is Marxist, Bert? Russia.
No, I live in Russia right now. In Russia right now, the unions are fairly similar to the ones that exist
in Russia.
I live in Russia. I'm in Russia right now.
This guy named Karl Marx wrote something called the Communist Manifesto, and it's definitely better than any of the forms of communism that preceded it.
Well, what do you think it is?
Trotskyism, Stalinism, Maoism.
Well, hold on. Okay, who do you want firms to be controlled by? Like, do you want them to be owned by the government, or do you want them to be like worker co-ops, or like what exactly is the implication of what your specific
I'd love it to be
brand
worker
is?
co-ops. Yeah, worker co-ops.
You can do that right now.
I'll be honest, Mel. It's fine.
You can.
Go for it.
I mean, first of all, you recognize you do have the ability to form a worker co-op right now.
Oh yeah, no. What I'm saying is that if we had embraced communism,
you can embrace it. You can embrace it within a system that.
You're rednecks like me, Mel. I'm
so why don't you embrace a co-op and do it?
No one pushes communism.
That'd be the funniest thing ever.
Lefty doesn't push communism. Like no one supports communism.
Tell this guy to start his motor shop.
Like there's zero. Even the most lefty. They're not.
Then go start your own shop. You retard.
Hey,
go do it. Go start your own shop.
Okay, Brass House, there's a whole section.
I'm not twink.
Hey, Lenny, shut the fuck up. I'm not talking to you.
Go fucking start your
Lenny, shut the fuck up.
Go start your own shop.
I'm trying to read this, so be quiet.
Go start your own shop.
Brass House, there's a whole section of YouTube called BreadTube that is like literally Marxist YouTubers.
But they're
called BreadTube?
Really,
yes.
Bosch and his jabrones. But like
those are the bad examples. There are actual ones who will talk about Marxism properly.
Lenny, hey, Lenny, pardon me for just a minute. Hold on. Lenny, hold on. Could you shut the fuck up? Your mic is coming in hot. Either you're sitting too close to it, or it's sitting underneath your jacket, or something. But it's the whole time. So
being underwater probably doesn't help either.
All right, back to I think Brass House. I think you were talking.
I don't remember.
You're talking about socialism and worker co-ops and.
The last topic was BreadTube.
BreadTube.
Well, yeah, that's a lot less interesting than worker co-ops.
No one's even like pushing communism like anymore. Like there's literally no politicians.
I want to respond to Josh.
Bernard Sanders.
As an employer, I read every single thing that affected my ability to do business. Like you guys don't seem. It's interesting. You have all of this nonsense, and you have no idea what it takes to be an employer. You have no idea what it takes to be responsible for someone's paycheck every single week, and to legally stay in business, not get fined, not end up in court every 3 months. And I've watched a lot of businesses go under because they didn't know how to do business. And so more, you know what? I think CEOs should be greedier. 40% profit, not enough. We need 50, 60.
I agree with you on that, dude. I
preach.
I so disagree on that.
Like for one thing, like your opinion is going to be outweighed by all the workers you have.
I'm sorry, Mel. I was listening to the other guy.
I said preach.
Can y'all hear me, or am I too quiet?
That's better.
Yeah, you do keep backing away from your desk.
I'm not a good mic guy.
Where your mic goes.
No, I mean, honestly, I feel like the more money I've made, the more lefty I've felt, and the more I felt like
I heard you say that.
The fairer it is. Like, I feel like it's like last year, like, I'm going to be real upfront with you. Last year, like, the first year I made, like, 2023, I made $400,000, and I paid $20,000 in taxes. You know what I mean?
All right, so I did not own a business the past few years, and my wife collected a W-2. I've paid 6 figures in income tax every year for the past 10 years.
See, I barely paid shit, and I made it. I mean, I probably paid a lot more than what my taxable income was too.
Bro, the Fed kept so much of my money that my average refund was $98,000.
Man, what a terrible problem to have.
Well, they kept $98,000. You just gonna let somebody have $100,000?
Yeah. Okay, how much did you pay in payroll taxes every week? Right, like a lot, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, like it costs a lot of money. Like we spend a lot of money anyway. Like in
$8 million, I'll make $400,000. $8 million.
Also benefit from all the services the government provides.
No, you'll do better than that. Like, because like at the end of the day, like the only thing that I would change is I don't think there should be a corporate tax. I hate that. Like I think that like my business, like I just burned through all my. I just bought 2 new trucks. I hired 4 new guys. Like I burned through all my cash because it was all going to be marginal tax rate at that.
So
point,
tax
right?
the people, not the rich, is what it sounds like.
What?
Tax the people, not the rich, is what it sounds like.
Well, just don't tax investment. Why would you just do a destination-based cash flow tax? Don't tax investment of corporations.
Yeah, get rid of corporate tax rate.
You know what?
There shouldn't be a corporate tax rate at all. It makes no sense to tax corporations.
Thing you've ever said, Nonfon.
Like, I should be able to save money from year over year to like for my operations, right? Because the way it's done now is I'm incentivized as a business owner to burn through my cash at the end of the year and then rely on debt at the beginning of the year until I can rebuild it up with revenue and then either pay marginal or burn through it. But
yeah, like if you want the wages of workers.
Oh, non-fun. Your solution would work great if like corporations actually reported their incomes properly. But as you see, like the bigger they get,
it's harder to avoid a destination-based cash flow tax.
They can
It
put
makes
their
it
assets offshore.
simplifies.
They can put their assets offshore and stuff like that. So
The simple, first of all, DBCFT is typically harder to avoid because it's less complicated, it's more simplified. But also, if you want the real wages of workers to go up, you know what you should do? You should not tax savings. You should only tax consumption. You shouldn't tax all the rich people who are saving their money, because saving that money increases productivity, which in turn increases.
People, not the rich. So again, tax
tax the rich people's consumption. I'm fine with like taxing when they buy stuff because that's not necessarily super.
So this is how
when
your
I say
prices
buy
go
stuff,
up,
I mean
by the
like
way.
consumption that's not investment. Obviously, if you're buying a plant, I don't think that should be taxed. But if you're
Nonfon, I showed you my union card, bro. You didn't even react.
I wasn't looking at it.
Busy chit-chatting. Wrongful rage coming in with a big 10. You can embrace it, but you'll, I'm assuming, die of hunger if everyone else does. F tanky garbage.
Real.
Yes, I'm so sorry to hear that people are that clueless that they don't understand that like the Mao and Stalin regimes suffered from malnutrition. I know you're afraid of the communists giving information. So there was something called Lysenkoism that Mao and Stalin both embraced. This is a false science. It is not supposed to be used with crop sciences. And the way that they tried to force farmers who were normally nomadic, again, I know this is new information to you, Grid. It's time to learn something. The way that they would force Grid, shut the fuck up. Seriously,
I want the fucking answer to the question.
No, I know you want to avoid the new information. So again, forcing farmers who were normally nomadic to farm local in a domestic way, it was not akin to their livelihood.
Tell me what Mao did that was positive.
I don't give a shit about Mao.
Okay,
that's why him calling out tensions is stupid as well.
Wait. Why did Lenin? The only way that Lenin found for the Soviet economy to actually work was to enact the NAP, which is basically keeping the capitalist economy in place for temporarily.
Yeah, you're better than that, Fox.
The only way?
You're better, Fox.
Yeah, no, again, I'm not a Stalinist either. I'm a Marxist. If you should know what Marxism is before you try to forward.
Well, you don't know what you're talking about either. You told me that companies are going to like offshore their assets to avoid a destination-based cash flow tax. The key part of destination-based is that you tax it based on its destination, not its origin. It actually is pretty hard. It actually is relatively easy to avoid the origin tax right now because you can station your company in the Bahamas. But a destination-based tax is based on where the destination of the good is.
Advanced economic. Wait, so because I was wrong about advanced economics. I don't know what Marxism is. You realize how disannounced.
Well, no, you were just like, you shouldn't talk about Marxism if you don't know what you're talking about. But you're talking about a DBCFT and you don't know what a DBCFT is.
Unequivocal. Do you know what do you know what an false equivocation is? Nonfon. You should probably learn what that is before you come debating about economics.
Well, I don't think.
I love talking about money, especially when people are sending it to me. Wrongful rage coming with a big 10. We protect the rights of rich or poor, sick or healthy, thin or fat, tanky or based. It's the American way. MOA killed how many millions? He did terrible.
You meant to say Mao.
Oh, thank you. I live under a rock. I don't know all of these things. Mao killed how many millions? He did terrible things. Who are you talking about?
And I think it's 300 million plus.
You don't know who Lysenko is. Don't blame Mao because you don't actually know what led to the crop failures during that time.
It's
who caused Holodomor? Go ahead.
It's communism, but we haven't perfected it yet.
You can't perfect it. You have
That's
to
my
have
point.
infinite resources for communism to work. It's been proven. You have to have infinite resources.
Do you see what my banner says?
No, you don't. That's stupid as fuck.
And TickyTack coming in with the Big 10. I don't know about y'all, but I'd be taking lessons from the guy making money, not giving lessons. That's an excellent, excellent point.
Yep, union busting if you want to make as much money as possible.
Hold on,
now, if you want to be a worker who's protected from your greedy ass boss, then you want a union.
Well, you want competition, right?
Oh, I mean, why would we? Okay, why would I start a business? Why would I start a business if I didn't intend to benefit from it? Right, and not to say that it can't get greedy appearing. Oh, here we go.
I'll take the smoke.
Everybody do what Grid said.
Do it off the back of your workers is all I'm going to say.
But I think that essentially.
I'm not.
Wait. I know you're not saying to me. What I'm saying though is like if I come in as an employee, I know that I'm going to work for the money I'm making, right? Whether I think it's fair or not fair, whatever. There's a standard market value across the board. We can take that and apply it. It's common sense. But it's also common sense to believe that somebody who worked their ass off to start a business, do all of the they're working they're not out golfing. Like they are actually there with Excel sheets, looking at numbers, dealing with accountants, like trying to get shit done, squared away over and over. I've worked with a lot of
you can't do it by yourself. You can't do it by yourself.
But
there is more than enough capital.
I'm not done.
I'm
not done. Hold on. I'm not done.
I'm sorry.
What my point is you, the owner of the company, are working your ass off, doing all of these things. You deserve to make sure your company's benefiting from it. And especially as small businesses, they're barely pushing profits on margins sometimes. So, and they're doing everything that they can to keep shit afloat, and they're doing everything to ensure they're
cease to exist, right? Like if you can't pay your employees a good wage and earn a profit, your business is not a business.
Well, I think we're agreeing on that. I think we're agreeing on that. But they still, I don't think it's greedy to want to benefit from your own company that you're busting your ass from.
If your business is successful, like no matter what, you own it, right? You're sitting on, if you have a successful business, even if you don't draw a paycheck all year and put all the net profit back into regrowth, you still own an asset worth millions of dollars. I still own however many trucks, you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, I had 2 offers to buy so far in 2024. You know what I mean? I can sell it like that. And so like, even if I don't get a bunch of money today and instead make sure all my employees are making over 6 figures, I'm still turning a high net profit. I can still sell it for a lot of money. I'm saying that it's a lie to say there's not enough capital in the business to pay employees good wages and the owner make enough money. It's bullshit. Walmart didn't need to make $40 billion and have me pay for them motherfuckers to have food stamps for all their employees. It didn't need to happen. There was enough money for Walmart to pay people enough to not need food stamps. Like that, there was enough money.
Do you think business is a cost-through entity? Meaning
I think
that
people don't
any
understand
extra cost
how business actually works.
Pass it to the consumers.
I don't think people understand how a lot of business actually works. I'll answer that in a kind of a long form here, because like just for example, and I'm sure Brass House is kind of the same way. So when I'm looking at a company, and let's say that they have a 90-day or a 30-day billing cycle, right? So they buy the material, they do the job, they invoice the contractor or whoever, the agent, and they got to wait. That guy has 30 days to pay them. Well, that guy turns in his invoice, and he may have another extra 15 days. So maybe 45 days to 60 days before I see my money. But I've already paid my employees, put fuel in the trucks, kept the building under lease, paid all of the expenses, paid their paid everything. And so your average float for just a standard local construction company, like that you see the trucks running every day,
Dude, my AR is 400 grand in the hole at all times.
Yeah.
Always 400 grand on the streets. And if it's
average
not, if it's not up front,
250 grand.
yeah, if I'm not 400K in my AR, like we're in trouble.
Burn the
You know
dress.
what I mean?
Right,
And that's my
yeah.
average.
And your
But once you
float's
start-
probably
You know as
probably
well as I do, though.
$200,000 a month.
Okay, once you hit like 5 million revenue or 3 million revenue, even right, 3 million, you're getting like 400K a month coming in every month, right? And your margin, if you're pricing or your margin, you're putting everything on like at least a 30% margin. That's 100 grand in margin to pay with. You pay your shop, you pay some vehicle payments, you're still sitting at 40K like on a bad month. It's like you don't hurt as the business owner. Like I'm telling you guys, like this is business right here. Cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold divided by 0.7. And if you're getting a 30% net margin in on all that you're fucking selling, you can't fucking lose. You can pay people top dollar and make a lot of fucking money. That's all business is. It's cost of goods sold divided by 0.7. Bring in a lot of fucking margin, and it's gonna be you can do whatever you want.
And let me interrupt you, gentlemen. Wrongful rage coming in with the Big Ten, forcing unskilled farmers into fields yielded poor harvests. Who would have thunk it? I asked the town idiot. He knew. I don't know why I hate you, but time out the fox. Let the panel debate cost of supply waste. Melanie, you got 20 minutes back. Can you just shut up for a fucking minute and let me talk? Melanie, you have 20 minutes backstage. I'll start.
I'm
your
glad they were
timer
so
now.
afraid of me answering. What's wrong with that?
You'll get it in. Don't worry. All right, let me set the timer.
He's sad that he's gone.
Joseph, I've never paid under company value. I mean, under values. Like I pay. Actually, I tend to pay at the high end of the pay scale.
But
When
you
I
have
had
to,
the,
right?
when I had the shop in Denver. Now, of course, that was automotive. I was the highest per hour labor rate in the city, except for BMW. At the dealership was like I think they were 140 and we were 115 an hour.
It's
And everybody
expensive
else
to
was
be
75.
good. It's expensive to be good.
Yeah, I don't undersell myself. I'm fucking good at my job.
Dude, I get underbid by union contractors. I mean, I'm joining the union. I'm in the process of it, but I get underbid by union contractors right now. And like, it's you buy it or fucking don't.
The company that I'm in the process of buying, they pay more, and I should say we, since we're taking it over. We pay more than the union.
I do too. That's what I base my pay off of, like $5 above union scale.
Yeah. And no dues.
And no, but I think there's a net benefit to me to enrich my employees. Like I think that the more stable they are, the more easily they can afford a home. Like what I tell everybody, our goal is for everybody to be able to afford a lake house, right? And if they can afford a lake house, they're gonna imagine how much fucking money they made me. You know what I mean? Like it's unreal. I'm not supposed to cuss, right? I apologize.
You can cuss.
Well, I've been cussing like a sailor, so I don't know.
I don't know.
Nobody gave me a
I'm a plumber. I don't even hear it. You know? I don't even hear it. No, she just told me to shut the fuck up. You're right.
Well,
Braxton, Grit, I have a question for you. I have a question for both, since you guys are both business owners.
Yeah.
What would be the biggest cost for you not to expand your business to hire more employees? Since we're trying to get to the employee question. Is it regulation? Is it new business?
High interest
Is it
rates.
the will? Or what's the biggest hurdle?
High interest rates. If you make money cheap, I can go as big as you want to be, Daddy.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually
daddy.
pretty accurate. That's
So
actually
then
pretty
it's-
accurate. I mean,
Well, that's kind of their point. But
regulation.
yeah.
Regulation's a big deal depending on what state you're in. The state that I'm in now, almost no regulation. I can do whatever I want. I was in California for a while, and I swear to God, man, it was like every month it was a different inspector, a different $100, $200, $500 fee.
Yeah. I don't know if I could do it in California, dude. I don't know if I'd be able to be successful there.
It was the craziest. Like the you want to hear the actual straw that broke the camel's back was, I shit you not, they came in. It's an automotive service shop. We do brake jobs. They did. I don't even know what the fuck they did there, but it's just a service shop. And I had a manager and I had a few employees. I just happened to be there the day that this happened. I wouldn't have believed it otherwise. This guy comes by and he says, I'm here to inspect your pressure vessels. And I'm like, what the fuck? What do I mean pressure vessels? He's like, well, you got air compressors, right? I'm like, yeah, we got 3 of them. And they're like, yeah, those are pressure vessels. It's $100 each for a 2-year sticker to say that we inspected them.
That's
fucking highway robbery, man.
It was Bandit that asked the question, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, okay. I talked about it earlier before Grid was in here about the regulation and like a lot of these big companies and the unions, I said this is a negative about the union, even though I'm pro-union, is they want to create those regulations to make it so expensive for you to get in the game. You know what I mean? That's why they make it like for like he's talking about, like they want to make it to where you have to have your pressure vessels inspected. You got to have your fucking your fire extinguishers inspected. You got to have all your technicians go take this class. You got to have them all have this fucking patch on their shirt that costs $400 a year per tech. And all those regulations, they're not doing it to give you a better quality product, because there could be a shop that has all that bullshit and Grid shop would have none of it, and I guarantee you get the same fucking service from Grid, right? But they want those regulations, so it's so expensive to enter the marketplace that you can't enter it. You're stuck as an employee.
Or you can't expand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like the regulation would be the second biggest factor. But I mean, in all honesty, once you're a capitalist, like you can find a way to win no matter what. You know what I mean? Like, but
the reason why I brought that up,
you can do whatever the fuck you want if you can get money cheap.
Yeah, the reason why I brought that up is if we're talking about H1 visas and we want to try to increase workers that we can get normal people working, not H1Bs, but normal Americans working, how can we increase demand for labor? So the biggest thing is, in your guys' eyes, is cutting interest rates. Now, for you guys, would it be
hold on,
5% range?
Those are 2 separate things, man.
Yeah, I understand it's just 2 separate things. I'm just saying you said the biggest one was cutting interest rates.
Yeah, but that's not why more people aren't working. My experience is that in a couple of different locations where I'm at now, that's not such a big deal, but Colorado, especially California, it was hard to find people who actually wanted to work.
Okay.
It's easy to find people that wanted a paycheck, but to actually wanted to work, show up every day on time, ready to work, proper uniform, all of that. It was really hard to actually get people to do that. Now and like I said, I could always find another employee. There was always a dealership that had a tech that was unhappy that I could hire. I could always poach from other people. But I can't tell you how many dealership service writers I would talk to, chain stores that would whine and cry all day long about the lack of qualified employees. And yet we only have something like 47% of the workforce employed.
The private, no. The workforce, no. The unemployment rate right now is 4.1%. The prime age employment rate, the prime age employment to population ratio is like 80.6%. Overall, the labor market is pretty tight. That's why we have interest rates right now.
I could be wrong. I skip around in stats, so I could be fucking around. But
what's the real unemployment rate? It's not 4%.
I have no idea, man.
What do you mean real?
There's 2 different unemployment rates. There's like
6.
the fake one and then like the real one. Like there's like the
fake one. They've released the fake one and they released the real one on the side. What's the real one?
I believe it's called like real unemployment. Like it's actually a lot more. Like,
the BLS does not release a fake unemployment rate and a real unemployment rate. They track employment 6 different ways.
And the country doesn't work, right?
Whatever it is, I don't care. Whatever it is, there are people that just don't want to work.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is, and I don't know what kind of contracting Brass House does, but I've watched. I've been doing a lot of renovations over the last few years, which is how I got into the contractor space from the automotive. And I can't tell you the number of people that would get hired by these subcontractors that would show up 2 days, get paid, and you'd never see them again. It's crazy.
I've had it's like get a check on Friday and be like, that's cool. Later.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I don't understand it. I mean, I really don't.
Well, I think there's societal, things that could change that. You know what I mean? I think that's part of
it is
part of a
societal.
welfare state. It's like the trust fund kid syndrome. Like if you have a trust fund, it's hard to go get a job that's like when you're like way richer than your fucking boss. You know what I mean? Like it's like these kids don't have to work. They don't need to.
Yeah, I get it. I just don't know, man. Like I'm really I don't know, man. I've just been watching a lot of weirdness go on the last few years, which I'm sure it's gone on longer. I just
how is it the true estimate of unemployment is not 30%? That's unhinged. But also, like, we acknowledge that the reason interest rates are high right now is because the labor market is tight, right? Like they have started to cut them, but like we're trying to make the labor market looser. We're trying to get you to hire less people and create less jobs with the high interest rates.
I don't really care about the unemployment. I mean, hey, Tim Hale, cool to see you, man. Sarah, you need to get Tim up here. Tim's awesome.
Tim, you're being paged to the panel. Tim,
he's better than me. But I just, as an employer, I'm sure Brass House is. I mean, I'm not sure what market he's in. He sounds like he's in the Northeast somewhere.
Dallas.
Huh?
Dallas.
You're in Dallas?
It's way off.
Oh, way off. I had him pegged for like Central Ohio.
I'm full Texas, dude.
All right.
Just ask my sister. She'll
You
tell
don't
you.
sound like you're from Texas.
I do too. How dare you?
Now that did sound a little bit. So where in Texas? I kind of know Texas a little bit.
Jean Jacket right here, okay?
He said Dallas.
If you were to see outside my shop right here, you'd believe it.
I believe.
I had a pig out here this morning.
What part of Central Texas are you in?
No, I'm in Dallas.
Oh, you're in Dallas.
Well, I'm south of Dallas, but I'm in Dallas.
Okay. So like I used to go down there. What's the name of that little area? There's a great shooting range there. I can't think what it is. I'll remember shortly. ETTS is the name of it.
I go to a lot of the gun ranges.
Yeah.
I do sporting days.
Bandit, did you want to get any final thoughts before you hit the road? Bandit.
He's already gone.
No, he's still here. He's on panel.
No. He just forgot to hit the button.
Maybe. Bandit, 3, 2, 1.
No, he's still talking in the chat. Why is he doing that?
Thanks for having me on. That's fair.
Okay.
Melanie, you got 8.5 more minutes.
Why does the fox keep getting put in timeout?
It's just kind of the drill, man. I mean, she's
just give her a hard time.
I welcome Melanie to my panel always. She's always.
I'm Hale. Get up here.
She always comes in.
I have to go. I've got to go do like dad stuff and.
She seemed like she was arguing in good faith.
We can we'll end up like probably shutting down in the next half hour or so.
Yeah, I'm actually going to dip out, guys. I didn't know I was going to come into this chat when I clicked on the SteamYards thing. I did not plan on that. This is my first time doing one of these, but it was fun. So.
Oh, well, yeah, you're always welcome. We always host open panel. Usually I kick off the conversation. Oh, kitty cat!
Yeah, I'm Nonfon's biggest supporter. He won't admit it.
What's your kitty cat's name?
For sure, his biggest
this
financial.
This is Cosmo.
Cosmo, I should have expected. She looks so miserable. It's like
he does not want to be on camera.
Really cool. It was really cool meeting you, Grid. I actually like you a lot, man. You were really cool. So.
Well, I try to be just just be me, So.
No, it was actually really cool meeting all y'all.
Yep.
Yeah, you're always welcome, Brass House.
We'll see you again.
Great. Quick question. What would be the typical interest rate for business loans in your area or in the U.S. in general?
I mean,
say $500,000.
$500,000. $500,000 today is you're probably looking at 7.5% to 8%. But that's 10 years. So understand that's a 10-year loan.
So it would accumulate quite a bit, yeah. Yeah, that sounds, because I'm used to way higher percentages and just hearing how it is in the US. Here, typically, it's
we actually think. I mean,
25%.
I'm really pissed at 8%. Like I was really hoping to get 6.5. I was really pissed at 8.
Yeah,
but you know, it is what it is.
It still accumulates. Yeah, as long as it's above like 5%, it accumulates way faster. But I mean,
the idea behind it is if you structure your deal properly, you never feel the debt service, right? And you kind of need it. Otherwise, you get to pay taxes on all of that money. And the whole reason I'm buying another business is so I don't have to pay as much in taxes. I'm literally sick of paying taxes.
Yeah, makes sense.
So what do you think of Jerome Powell? Do you hate our Lord and Savior, Jerome Powell, for raising the interest rates like a true hero?
I don't know, but I tell you what, man, you've never felt a nut punch. Like, so the way that they do the taxes is evil too, man. So like, my wife would get a bonus check every year, and it was like, I don't know, $475, something like that. And you would think that's a lot. Give them hell no fun. But well, about 100 of that would be in stocks, company stock, and then the
give them hell no fun.
Then the
government $10, Brass. I appreciate it.
And at the end of it, you get a check for like $180 or $180,000. And you're like, wait, what happened? Like, where's all my money? But no, yeah, you don't get to keep any of it. The government has you, bro. The government has you. So.
But you really
never. Go ahead.
You don't think you benefit from any of the government services? Any of them?
I mean, that's a hard one to talk about. First of all, federally, unsure. I'm not a big fan of 3-letter agencies at all, so it's tough. State, yeah, sure. You know, and we don't have state income tax. As a matter of fact, my state operates at a surplus, so we don't need state income tax. But man, do I think that I benefit to the tune of, you know, whatever it is a year? No.
Well, I wouldn't say, because you're probably in the top 10 to 1% of income earners. I would imagine you wouldn't benefit, you know, as much as you pay in, because I don't know if the top 10% should benefit as much as they pay in. I would argue that money, I mean, some of it benefits you, because I would say like some of it goes to public education, and that probably has a net positive effect on you. But like a lot of it just goes to like keeping people out of poverty. And that
my kid goes to private schools. Public education.
Well, yeah, but public education also like reduces crime and increases human capital and like productivity for the whole of society, which benefit you. Like most of your employees probably went to public schools, and like you aren't committed. I'm assuming there's not much crime against you. Part of that is probably because of public education.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to argue the point.
Okay.
So. Tim Hale, what is up, buddy?
Hello.
Dude, you've been working out or something. You look healthy, man.
Oh,
being out of prison would do that to you, I guess.
I try. Well, I'm back on keto, so I'm trying to lose my gels. But
yeah.
All right, thank you for having me on. Raging tomato. I'm not much of a tomato, but I'm very raging.
Well, you look red enough to be a tomato, so it works.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I appreciate. I don't know why I'm even on here. Grid, you yelled at me. Stop, Dad. Stop yelling.
Well, we're talking. So I think the initial discussion. What was the initial discussion anyway?
H1B
replacement skilled workers, and I know that you have something to say on that. And then I came in with all of this tax and business nonsense, and derailed the entire fucking conversation.
Well, that's always fun to do. As a proud internet troll, it's always
everybody's got to have a talent. I'll accept
this. Oh, hey, guess what? My fucking my conviction got overturned. I just won in court. So
3 years of your life down the drain, but you're free and clear.
Not a felon anymore. Yeah.
Am I like the only person on YouTube that doesn't have some type of jail issues or something? I feel like everybody I talk to has some type of felony or has been to jail or like crazy. I feel like so vanilla.
Tim was a proud guest of our Federal's Finest because of his activities on January 6th.
The Temple of Democracy.
And his story is very interesting. It's actually really cool to listen to.
Fair enough.
You need to up your game though. If you have any if you have time for any felonious activity, I can recommend some stuff. So.
Oh my.
We'll get you there, Sarah. We'll get you there.
Tim Hale, the man himself.
And Fox is back.
Man himself.
Foxy's back.
What does the fox say?
Definitely a victim. I love you, Mel. All right. Floor's open. Mel, since you've been sitting so quietly, do you want to go ahead and spring it on him?
Oh, me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was talking the whole time. I guess nobody heard me. So communism, by the way, the farmers thing where apparently a whole bunch of farmers got forced to farm. The farmers who were already like on their plots of land year round, they actually adapted quite well. There just wasn't as many in that area as like the nomadic farmers who the communists forced to like settle down. And they weren't used to farming that way, and that's why that didn't work.
You're talking about PRC, right?
No, this was actually more Stalin.
Oh, it's a bit of an oversimplification to.
Yeah, I'm trying not to.
Yeah,
I'm trying not to put grid to sleep.
I get what you're saying. It's not there weren't exactly nomadic, but like there weren't that many nomadic farmers in the Russian Empire. Before that, they were mostly tied to their land, but they weren't collectivized, which was the main problem in the Soviet Union. But I think we were talking about the immigration before that. I think we should get back to that topic because Tim was.
Yeah, Tim was going to enlighten us with his view on H1B.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what his opinion is. I wonder if it's. Yeah, I wonder.
My opinion about what?
The H1B debacle that's going on right now.
Do you understand it a little bit more?
I mean, look, I try to have a nuanced perspective on pretty much anything. I mean, I'm open to hearing all sides of things. I think that the argument, when I look at the different influencers who are arguing about it, it seems very inorganic. It seems like a forced argument. I understand that the visa thing is something that people have had an issue with for a long time, and I can understand that. But devil's advocate, it seems like Musk is willing to concede that there are abuses that need reforms. So I don't know. I definitely don't think that Americans are unwilling to work jobs. But I don't know. I don't have particularly strong feelings because the people I see, here's the thing. Like, I can agree that foreign countries abuse our visas, but at the same time, a lot of the people making these arguments I find to be very suspicious, glow-in-the-dark type characters anyway. So, like, it's not really a hill I want to die on.
Glow-in-the-dark.
Well, I mean, I think there is evidence that, like, you know, people in the U.S. are, like, unwilling to work in, like, meatpacking or childcare to the extent that it's demanded. But also, like, Americans don't have to be unwilling to work. It's just, like, there can be more jobs than workers, right? And I feel like the labor market is pretty tight right now. So it makes sense that would be the case.
Well, I could agree that... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Gestural coming in with a big 20. Grid, I like your style. If I wasn't making a boatload of money in Alaska, I'd work for you. Thanks for enduring sleepless nights and 100-plus-hour weeks to provide people like me with a good job and a life-changing wage.
It's all one can ask for. Thanks, just Gerald. And you didn't what, guys? I hate to take accolades and run, but I'm gonna go find my wife, and we're gonna do husband-wife stuff.
Oh,
That's sleep.
Oh,
Snuggle. I go cuddle.
You guys have a great night. Nonfon, you were on point tonight. Good job, buddy. Good job.
I appreciate it.
Hale, have a good time, buddy.
only
Grid
tonight,
one.
though.
Grid
Only
one
tonight.
motorboat.
See you guys. Sarah, have fun.
Bye, Grid. Thank you. All right. And Tim, I think you were going before I interrupted you so rudely.
Oh no, I like I said, I can meet people halfway. I think that I've read a lot of books about things like you mentioned the meatpacking industry, and I agree that there are a lot of people who, when they get into that industry, that it's not something that they expect, and I think a lot of it has to do with the brutality of the businesses that really run that stuff. But I don't worship the free market. I actually think that corporations abuse laborers, and so like I'm a union guy, and I have been for some time. I'm not a traditional, I guess, I'm not a Republican, so. I think two things can be true at the same time. I think a lot of Americans are or would be averse to working in conditions that are frankly not safe or whatever. But I think that just means that we should improve the conditions and encourage Americans to take those jobs. So, but like I said, I don't really have strong opinions about this whatsoever. I am a union guy, and historically, my biggest things as a union guy are fair working or fair pay, good working conditions, and respect for the worker. So that's pretty much it.
As far as I know, the U.S. Specialist immigration system doesn't require the employers to prove that they couldn't find anyone eligible among the citizens and people with PR and work visas already in the country. And I think that that's a bit weird because many countries do that. Like the example I like to bring in is Finland, which requires employers to prove that they did some due diligence and actually looked for employees in the country before turning to foreign labor. I think that would be more than fair, and as we see in practice, that doesn't require that much bureaucratic increase in bureaucracy than what exists right now. So there are ways to reform the system so that there are less people coming in and more people already in the country getting jobs that pay decent wages.
Mel?
I guess I don't know how much I care whether or not they hire an immigrant or hire a native if I think that the hiring of the immigrant is still probably a net benefit for everyone.
Would it not be a greater benefit because my thinking is, if you bring in someone that's not currently present in the country, you're bringing down wages and at least in the short term, you're increasing unemployment simply because that job, if that job could be filled in by someone already in the area or in the country. If that's not the case, I don't see any problem with bringing someone overseas. But that often is the case, that you could fill the job in with a local, and by bringing a person from Russia or Ukraine, India, wherever, you're taking away a job from someone already there, and bringing up unemployment as a result. I don't
necessarily think you're taking it away, because it's about like opportunity cost, right? Like if the immigrant is able to do, this job, it could be the case that the native worker goes on and gets a even better job. Like especially if the immigrant increases productivity to some extent, then that'll increase the average wage level for everyone. I mean, it's the same argument. Like does using a shovel take away a job from 3 people who are using spoons? It's like, well, there's an opportunity cost, right? The resources are now able to be used for other things, and it's like, if we bring in an immigrant, the domestic resources, that domestic labor is able to be used for other things as well. So I don't really I don't care that much.
I'm not arguing for employing more people. I'm arguing for, like, if there's a position that's, because we're talking about specialists, if there's a position that is specifically, let's say a data analyst. If there's a data analyst in your local area, the efficiency and the productivity would be comparable to a data analyst abroad. If you can't find someone with specific certifications or whatever, yeah, sure, bring them in. But I'm not talking about specifically trying to find someone with lower specialization.
I mean, we're assuming that like this is like a fixed pie. Again, this is I mean, everyone can look this up. Just like go to Google, type in lump of labor fallacy. There's a Elon Musk tweeted this out even. Like there's not like a fixed amount of work that can be done in a day, and it could either go to an immigrant or go to a native worker. There can be benefits for everyone. Some, like, it's not everything has to be zero sum. And when I engage with trade with someone, we're both benefiting. There can be, you can bring someone here and create more jobs as a result. Both people can be employed versus not letting, you know, the immigrant in and the native workers employed, but that immigrant isn't employed in America, and we lose out on all that.
Labor markets. By the way, waiting for labor markets to stabilize to respond to something like you don't have enough general physicians. You know, waiting for them to go through school and all that stuff when there are foreign workers who could come in and fill that gap now. Like, people are going to suffer. Yeah, people are going to suffer if you don't get general physicians doing their job.
To bring those people in, because as I said, if there aren't people who are eligible for, who are able to fill in those positions, I see absolutely no problem with bringing someone overseas.
Well, eligibility would be like one of the first criteria, because you have to get an employer to employ you before your H1B is certified, I believe.
Yeah, that's true. But again, opportunity cost. It could be the case that the immigrant comes here and works, and now that domestic worker is able to do another job, a job that wouldn't even exist if he was doing the job the immigrant is now doing. There's not a fixed amount of work that can be done in a day. It's not a fixed pie. The pie can grow. Everyone can win sometimes.
The pie can grow, definitely. Why wouldn't that job be created? That job wouldn't be created. Is that job created by that employee who wasn't hired, or
well, if the employee is doing another job, they can't do. If the employee is doing the job that the immigrant could do at a lower cost, by the way, then they can't do a job that, you know, that the other alternative job, the next best alternative job.
Yeah, and if that, again, the same logic applies to that other position. If they are searching for employees as well, if that person who's working on the lower wage job that position is filled in by a domestic applicant, and the better job can't find a person who can work because the only person who could work there is already doing some work at another place, then bring in an immigrant into that position.
Well, I mean, if you're okay with bringing an immigrant into that position as well, like, I mean, I guess I don't, like I'm in favor of bringing in immigrants because of that argument. I don't see, it doesn't really matter to me what job the immigrant is doing. Just like let the market, I would just let the market figure out what job it's more efficient for the immigrant to have.
You would end up with less immigrants who aren't necessary for the economy to prosper. The moment
what do you mean aren't necessary?
Meaning that they aren't filling in positions that could not.
But they can create new positions, like they demand new services. They are also a positive demand shock. There's not a fixed pie. There's not a fixed number of positions.
The immigrants aren't the ones who are creating new positions. They're filling them in.
Wait, no, immigrants do create new positions.
Specifically,
H1B workers do create new positions. H1B workers create new positions in a ton of other jobs where they demand the services of, like grocery stores and restaurants and all these other. They're a positive demand shock for all those industries.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yes, they're creating more demand, not specific. They're creating more demand, which in turn creates more positions.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the same reason why. Oh, what?
Sorry, I'm just confused. Like, I've never heard, like, I have read some things about the labor market going up to this, and nobody talks about it necessarily in terms of supply and demand. How often is it that we describe the labor market in terms of supply and demand?
People usually do that. The labor market operates by the rules of supply and demand. It's just that demand for labor is probably relatively inelastic.
That's the first time I specifically heard the labor market operates according to the laws of supply and demand. So thank you for.
Basically every thing does. I mean, we restrict some things, like we have price controls and some things and whatever. But yeah,
I know good starting points for learning about economics, but there's not a good like course on like this is how labor markets work that I know of.
I mean, Greg Mankiw. Are you gonna read some of a textbook?
You can send me stuff if you want.
I mean, I would just look up. I don't know. I think there's an online economics textbook called like Core Economics Textbook. They go over it. I know there's a Greg Mankiw. My goat.
Oh no! Like what I was saying is that like with supply and demand, I've just never seen anything talk about supply or demand either even in terms of labor markets. So it seems like when they teach this stuff, they initially teach it like they're two separate things. Like labor markets are a different type of market than consumer markets, but the way you're describing it sounds like they have more overlap than difference. And
no, I mean,
that's
I mean, they operate by the same rules. Like you increase supply, you're gonna, reduce.
It's the same
the price.
Yeah, it's the same principle. If you increase the amount of something,
okay.
It's
Yeah, you decrease wage if you have too much supply of workers. So,
which is true. Which is why a lot of unions oppose illegal immigration, because they,
yeah, exactly.
A lot
of unions oppose illegal
unions
immigration.
exist to protect the workers in them. They don't like the workers outside of them.
No. What I'm saying is though that like, would you say that like more than 50% of them take on an active anti-immigration stance?
Without
I don't know what they do exactly, honestly, but like I don't follow every union, but I know unions typically are not like friendly to those outside of them. Like,
yeah,
no, I know, yeah, they're very self-interested and internalized, which is something as a kind of like a post-communist leftist I would like us to address, because I'm not just worker-oriented.
Yeah, so I think that being not a non-scientific perspective, I'm in New Jersey, so I think I can give a pretty general perspective on how unions work. Yeah, I would say that while the union leadership, I think it all varies, of course, but I think generally union leadership can often be pretty lock in step with democratic politics. But in general, the core of union members, they tend to be pretty I would say conservative in their outlook on immigration.
So unions have historically, and this is 2024, so I can't say how much this applies because I'm also not a union worker, but they have historically cared a lot about solidarity. And part of that would be like, well, some of our workers are immigrant workers, and so we need to make sure they also have equal protections and rights. So it seems like, from just an initial fact check of myself, most unions are more in favor of protecting immigrant workers than getting rid of them.
So I think context matters for everything. Like you rightfully pointed out the time that we're in. It's the 21st century, 2025. Like I think most unions today have a very specific purpose. Most unions in America aren't radical syndicalists. They're not part of unions that are like, the various world federation types. They're
I'll
local.
Even agree that they're kind of like corporatized or bureaucratized.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, unions are pretty much for what I had said earlier, which is that they want fair working conditions, they want decent wages, and they basically don't want to get fucked with by management. That's pretty much it. So I don't think you should look at unions primarily as a vehicle for social engineering or any specific worldview that exists. But I think that's primarily things that you see from like the union presidents or people at the top. So like the auto unions, for instance, most of the members of those unions are fairly conservative, but then you have, of course, the heads of those unions who maybe would support like hardcore Democrats, just because that's just the nature of unions in America. Historically, they were aligned with the Democratic Party, and that's just kind of how it still is. But
okay, sorry, not to sidestep you, but There's some misinformation in chat just for anyone who also believes the same thing I want to address by Mr. Mister, which you're dead wrong, buddy. H1B visa immigrants are legal immigrants. They are not illegal immigrants. They have status here.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a visa. I don't know how we think that's illegal.
If they overstay it, then they become.
I mean, they can't overstay it. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be under H1B. That would be just overstaying a visa like any other.
Well, that'd be. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
You could get in as a tourist and overstay that visa.
Which honestly does actually, if you want to be an American citizen, that does seem to be the best pathway to citizenship.
I mean, I was considering moving to the U.S. for a while. I think that the best way that's not connected to gambling with your own life and status would be to get into a college or a trade school and get a work visa afterwards.
You'd get a visa, and then you'd have to marry somebody to actually be a citizen. But
no, you can get PR afterwards
maybe I'm wrong. But
you can get PR after a certain number of years. With PR, you can get citizenship.
Sorry, let me speak more accurately to the data I'm citing. Posthumously, it turns out that most current legalized citizens in the U.S., the ones who have gotten legal status, are people who overstayed their visas. Maybe that's.
I mean, I know
out
of the people who I know live in the U.S. right now, who I've known personally, I think like more than 2/3 of them crossed the border illegally or overstayed their visas. So, I mean, it's quite.
I'm pretty sure the number of people who cross the border is actually quite low, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, my case might be special just because I live in Russia and a lot of people.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, sorry, I thought you were talking about America. That's my bad.
No, I mean, people from Russia going to the U.S. illegally because they want to immigrate in the long term.
Well, I'm sorry, sir, but with "Don't Step on Snack" in the background, you make a very convincing American. Okay.
Thank you.
Ricky.
Did you, I hate to say this, but I was actually getting ready to shut down here in a few minutes. If you want to take a quick one to get your thoughts out, Brick.
Oh, I don't mind saying it. Bricky, say something or get the fuck out.
Shut the fuck up, Furby.
Oh, goodness. Brick's drunk again. All right. Here's what we're going to do, because Flow State has some drama going on over there that I need to go tend to.
Does he ever?
Yes! Fight! We're going to have a fight at Flow States. That's what's happening.
I think you need to get Nonfon the Economist in on this.
Furby, I'm going to punch the face off you.
What are they talking about?
I'm going to fight you, Furby.
Oh, boy.
Furby, I'm fighting you at Flow States. Me and you having a fight.
Look, if you can find a way to punch me in my face and not have my body move such that my face flies off,
money.
Like I'm like 100
Does your ex-husband have a stripper?
Oh no, but then Sarah would be disappointed.
Economics.
All right, bitches. All right. Brick, give us your final thoughts. Thank you, Brick. Furby.
That was it. Yes, I love it. God.
Brick, what's your final
No.
thoughts?
No.
All right.
Sarah, that was it. Good. That was it. Move on.
That's what's in his head right now.
Furby, to you.
I'm Melanie H1B Fox.
I love her for that. Tim, floor's yours. Final thoughts. Feel free to plug too.
Find me on X, Tim Hale, criminally funny J6er. Thank you for the random invitation. Everybody, keep in touch with yourselves, all right?
Thank you, Tim. Bert, to you.
Thank you, everyone, for the stream, for the talk. I love Nonfon. I'm here from his stream, so go subscribe to him.
Very nice. And Nonfon, of course, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I really appreciate being here. Thanks everyone for letting me on. Or Sarah for letting me on. The rest of you guys didn't do shit. You just showed up. Yeah, you can see all my socials down here. You can go to my YouTube channel, Nonfon. I stream everywhere. But my YouTube channel, NonFon, I'm about to end stream. I have a bunch of, YouTube videos there, some of which are debates that happen on this channel. You can go watch them. You can go watch me debate Tim Hale. I know we've debated him before. There's some videos of Bird in them. I just recently debated H1B stuff with a different person prior to today. So you can go watch that too. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for having me, Sarah. I'll see you all later.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, NonFon, for joining tonight. You are very well educated, and it certainly shows. You're a very bright young man, and I expect a lot from you in the future. And if you fail, I will kick your ass personally. But to everyone else who joined the panel this.
Okay. If you want to chat with me live, sub here or go to NonFon420 on Twitch or Kick via the links below. Once again, please like and sub to help with the algorithm, and consider sending a donation through YouTube Super Thanks to directly support me, and I'll make sure to reply to any question you ask. See you guys next time.